Chapter 1, Rewind. If there's one thing they say about life, it's that you never know what you had until it's gone. And you never ever realize the privilege of touching grass until you can't. Some lose their privilege by choice, others by circumstances. Well, mine was a choice. A wet cough tore through the monologue, followed by a bitter chuckle. The man lying on the floor looked like a collapsed mountain of flesh. His belly pressed against his t-shirt with each painful gasp, and the weight of his obese body made standing impossible. He wiped the blood from his lips, his eyes gleaming with a crazy look and a strange, shameless laugh bubbling up from his chest. "Enough with the bullshit speech, Vaughn," he spoke to himself. "I guess it's finally time." With a frustrated grunt, Vaughn clawed at the floor, dragging his heavy frame across. His arm felt heavy as he reached toward the phone lying just out of reach. But eventually he did so and handled it. Ring. Ring? The call picked up immediately. "Vaughn, what is it? Are you okay? Vaughn, talk to me." A stressed, soft voice came through. Vaughn focused, trying to force a clear breath. "Hey, sis. I just wanted to let you know that the Eagle has landed." A gasp tore through the line immediately. "No. Don't you dare panic. Vaughn, listen to me. Take your meds. I'm calling 911. I'll be there with the ambulance in no time, you hear me? Just hold on, Vaughn," she begged, tears already wetting her voice. Vaughn breathed in heavily, forcing a cough and another chuckle. "No, sis. Chill out. Forget the ambulance. It's not needed anymore. I think this might be it, sis. It's a code red and I can't hold on. Maybe. It's finally time." The silence on the other end stretched for seconds. "Sis, Nana?" There was no reply, only muffled sounds of his sister weeping, hearing his sister cry. The defiant smile that had been fixed on his face finally shattered, and tears poured from his own eyes too. He didn't try to stop the shared weeping that filled the line. "Nana." Vaughn finally broke the silence. "Nana, I have something to tell you. I'm so sorry for always being a burden. I'm sorry for not appreciating you. I'm sorry for not changing." Vaughn's composure completely collapsed. Tears, snot, and sweat filled his face as he sobbed uncontrollably. "Nana, I love you. You're the best sister any brother can ask for. Thank you. Thank you for everything, Nana." He managed a tremendous effort, forcing a genuine smile despite the pain. "And hey, after I die, I want you to live a damn happy life. Find yourself a good man. And if he ever treats you wrong, I'll crawl out of whatever hell they dump me in and beat his ass myself." He heard her sobs reduce to shaky breaths, allowing his last painful breath. "This is it, Nana. I'll always love you, sis." Before she could respond, Vaughn coughed and threw the phone away. He was exhausted, and his eyes were close to shutting. Darting around the room one last time. The floor was covered in trash, empty bags of chips, old containers, and stacks of dusty anime discs, everything he had used to hide from reality. It was a monument to his selfishness. Soft music played softly in the background. It was a cheerful pop song he once blasted proudly. Now it felt hollow. He took one last look at the catastrophic room, at the life he couldn't fix, the body he couldn't escape, the love he never deserved, and he finally let his eyes shut. Vaughn was dead. What happens when we die? While there was no proven answer to that question, billions of people across history held onto their own different beliefs. Some believed in golden clouds, others in reincarnation, and some in nothing at all. But now, the time had finally come for Vaughn to find out. Floating in an endless, pitch-black expanse, Vaughn was mulling over this very question. His nervousness grew with every passing second as he waited for an answer, for a judgment, or perhaps just for the lights to go out permanently. But the silence stretched on, and his consciousness remained surprisingly intact. "Hold on. I'm able to think. So, we don't actually die when we die." This news was very positive to him. It meant he still existed. But as the relief washed over him, something still felt odd. "I feel like I can do much more than just think." It was a strange sensation, and like a reflex action he tried opening his eyes. Light came through immediately. It wasn't the white light of heaven. but the harsh yellow glare of sunlight streaming through a window. The brightness made him shield his face instantly with a forearm before his eyes adjusted to the sudden assault. That was when Vaughn came to terms with what was going on. He wasn't floating, he was lying on a soft surface. He sat up abruptly and brought his hands up to feel his face. It was warm. It was solid. He could really feel it. Desperate to confirm reality, he pinched his skin, and alas, the pain was there. No way. Was that all a dream? Vaughn exclaimed outwardly. You had a bad dream? A voice asked, with a nervous chuckle from the other side of the room. Vaughn snapped his head toward the source of the sound. Standing near the door was a young man dressed up neatly in a well-ironed white shirt tucked into black trousers, paired with a matching vest and a perfectly knotted tie. His shoes were also polished to a mirror shine. Coupled with his thick, round glasses and an innocent, slightly timid smile, he was best described as a nerd. Vaughn's jaw dropped. "Zach, is that you?" Zach blinked, looking confused by the outburst. He reached up and awkwardly scratched the back of his head. Apparently, yes," Zach replied, clearly unsure how to handle Vaughn's sudden energy. He quickly cleared his throat, eager to change the topic to something safer. "Anyway, you're up early today? Will you be attending class?" The last question had an urgency to it that practically begged for a yes. "Class? No, I mean, yes. Just, I don't know. But I'll see." Vaughn finally replied after the small confusion, his thoughts still a jumbled mess. Zach seemed to deflate slightly but nodded nonetheless. "All right then, I'll get going. But please, try to do so. You missed the last one already." After getting a vague nod from Vaughn, he slung his heavy leather bag over his shoulders and left through the door. "Bye, Vaughn." "Bye," Vaughn mumbled in reply. The door clicked shut, leaving the room silent. After ensuring Zach was truly gone, Vaughn stood up. That was really Zach. Zach Tuna. In Vaughn's previous life, that timid boy had grown up to become the famous, successful lawyer known across the entire state. He was a bestseller author of legal thrillers and a man Vaughn had watched on TV from his trash-filled room. It wasn't that much of a surprise considering he was once Vaughn's roommate here at the University of Miami. Back then, Vaughn had treated him badly. He had been a terrible roommate, always bullying Zach, taking his things without asking, and mocking his studious nature. In the end, that behavior had bitten back at him hard. Zach became a success, while Vaughn let his life waste away into nothingness. "I really was an asshole," Vaughn said to himself with deep regret as the memories of his past mistakes came flooding back. But now it seemed things were different. Vaughn felt a surge of adrenaline. He rushed over to the full-length mirror attached to the closet door to have a look at his appearance. He stared at the reflection. Messy black hair that hadn't been washed in a day or two, striking violet eyes that widened in disbelief, fair skin that looked relatively healthy, not gray and sickly like it had been in his final moments. Everything was the same. It was him. He still had a big frame, but it hadn't gotten so worse yet. He wasn't the immobilized mountain of flesh he had been on that floor. He was just a heavy college student. Vaughn grabbed the pillow from his bed and buried his face in it to cover his mouth. "Yes," he screamed into the fabric. He pulled the pillow away, grinning like a maniac. He was really excited. All those years, the pain, the death, it can't be all a dream, he muttered, which only means one thing. I went back in time. Ding. He was still processing his thoughts when a soft, mechanical sound rang clearly in his head, and suddenly, text filled his vision, glowing on a purple translucent screen that hovered in the air before him. "Welcome back, Vaughn. The Superstar System is online. Chapter 2, Superstar System. You have been chosen by the Superstar System to rewrite reality. This is a 1 in a trillion anomaly. A temporal event has granted you a second chance. You have been taken back 6 years in time. Your goal is simple. Rewrite your history and put your name in the stars." The screen pulsed, and a new prompt appeared, demanding an answer. "Vaughn, are you ready to become a superstar?" Yes, no, yes. Vaughn spoke out loud, not even considering rejection for a second. This was a goddamn opportunity, and just thinking about it made his heart tingle with excitement. After confirming his affirmation, the text in his view changed immediately. Superstar system, status panel, bio, name, Von Varley, age, 18, class, student, title, none, system level, 0, stacks, vocals F-0/10, composition, F 0/10, charm, F plus 0/10, progression, skills, none, EXP 0, current fans, 0, quests, 1 available, star shop, unavailable. Damn, what are those stats? Vaughn muttered in horror. If those grades represented what he expected, then he was truly fucked up. But as a big die-hard fan of system novels and shows in his past life, he knew for sure that there was a way to improve them. That was what the system was for, after all. As if answering him, the system expanded the information. Attributes are graded on a scale from F to S. Subgrades and plus indicate progress within a tier. EXP requited for UPA grade. F tier, 10 EXP. E tier, 30 EXP. D tier, 100 EXP. C tier, 300 EXP. B tier, 1000 EXP. A tier, 3000 EXP. S tier, 10,000 EXP. I knew it, Vaughn said with a mischievous smile. So now all I have to do is grind for EXP, and I'll be set. How do I gain EXP? Experience points, EXP, can be obtained by unlocking achievements and completing quests. EXP is used to upgrade stats and serves as currency in the Star Shop. Currency? Vaughn raised an eyebrow. Using experience points as money was new to him. But it made him wonder why the Star Shop was currently marked unavailable. Vouchers can be obtained by completing quests or purchased from the Star Shop. The description only made Vaughn more interested in what the Star Shop was capable of, but he wouldn't know for now. It was locked tight. With a mental click, he selected the only available option to see his first mission. The screen flickered, revealing the task. Quest, daily task. Description: a superstar must be in perfect shape. To rule the stage, you must first fix yourself. Objective: run 5 kilometers, 0 for fifths. Do 50 sit-ups, 0 50. Give your junk foods to the needy, 0 ever 100%. Rewards: plus 5 EXP. Unlock chain quest line. Stamina recovery pill, gotten after completing physical quests, S. Failure penalty. Your body will reject food for 30 hours. Vaughn's hopeful expression broke immediately. He quickly grabbed his phone and typed a quick search. How many miles is 5 kilometers? Result: 3.1 miles. His heart began to race. How am I supposed to run that distance? It's impossible. I don't even think pro athletes run that much. He looked down at his stomach. Just walking to class winded him. Running 5 kilometers felt like a death sentence. But then he saw the punishment. Rejection of food for 30 hours. Vaughn couldn't help but sigh in pain. He loved food. He didn't know how his body would reject the food, but the idea of it happening, and for that long period, he wasn't even sure if his body could handle that shock. This system is looking more like a mistake now, he muttered with a wry smile, wiping sweat from his forehead. But on the positive side, the reward seemed good. There was no shop voucher, but the 5 EXP was enticing. 2 days of quests, and he's leveled up a stat. Plus, the possibility of unlocking a chain questline meant better rewards might be waiting behind this one. The last reward also interested him. Stamina recovery pill. Instantly alleviates fatigue and restores users' stamina. Note: overconsumption may result in forced unconsciousness. More than one cannot be stored. Vaughn was impressed with such a cheat, but it also made his decision tougher. He sighed as he collapsed back onto the bed, deep in thought. It would be a big deal to complete all these objectives, and he wasn't exactly keen on testing if the punishment would really work. That left him in a dilemma. He pushed the quest to the back of his head for a moment and decided to focus on uncovering the rest of the system first. After a 3-minute Q&A session with the floating screen, Vaughn had discovered pretty much everything he wanted to learn. Vocals controlled the clarity and quality of his voice. Composition determined his ability to create original works, from writing lyrics to generating beats and drafting scripts or books. While willpower had to do with his mindset and mental defense, it had supposedly gone up to E+ because of his death and return. The rest of the stats were pretty much what they were named. Class was tied to his profession, currently student, while titles were special names gotten from achievements, though the system didn't say what they actually did. As for skills, he learned he could either obtain them the natural way by practicing, or he could receive them from the star shop or as quest rewards. Current fans simply counted the people who supported him. Vaughn also discovered that the system answers were basically programmed into it. It kept giving him default answers for most questions. And when he tried to learn deeper, it repeated the same lines. That limited how much it could help him. But Vaughn didn't mind. Now he was done with the tutorial. There was the quest waiting for him. The idea of exercising gave him shivers, but then a distracting thought came up. I should give Nana a call. He hadn't heard her voice yet. In the timeline he just left, his last memory was her crying, and he needed to start making amends. He picked up his phone and was about to call his sister, when the system flashed a message right in front of his eyes. Time left to quest failure, 16:10:48. Vaughn stared at the countdown ticking away in his vision. He really wanted to call Nana now, but then again he could wait. For now, it was best if he focused on the quest. With a determined nod, he decided to hold off. He would call her when he had accomplished something that will make it better. He looked at the status screen one last time. Objective: do 50 sit-ups, 0:50. All right, let's start with the easy part. Vaughn flopped back onto his bed. The mattress groaned in protest under his weight. He bent his knees, interlaced his fingers behind his head, and prepared to take his bulk upward. 1, he grunted, pulling himself up. It was hard for him, as his stomach felt like a heavy sack of sand. 2, 3, arg, 4, 5. His breathing was heavy, but he kept the rhythm. 9, 10. Vaughn collapsed back onto the pillows breathlessly. I must admit, it ain't as difficult as I expected. He chuckled between wheezes, a grin appearing on his sweaty face. Must be my E+ willpower kicking in, or maybe I'm just built different. He continued. This time, he didn't stop. He pushed through the burn in his abdominal muscles, counting steadily until he hit 50. But he didn't stop there. He felt like he was on a roll, so he pushed for more. 55, 60. He finally collapsed at 70. 70, let's go, Vaughn grunted, wiping the sweat from his forehead with his sleeve. Expecting to see the green completion text, he checked his status screen with a smug look. Do 50 sit-ups, 0:50. What? Vaughn screamed out loud, staring at the number in disbelief. It wasn't counting? You blind piece of junk. I put my sweat into those reps. Vaughn simply sighed after seeing that the system wasn't going to help him. Either this system is broken, or I'm not doing it right. It couldn't be the former. Such an almighty system probably didn't have glitches. That left user error. Vaughn took up his phone and went on InkTube, where he typed in a quick search for proper sit-up forms. He watched a video of a fitness instructor explaining the mechanics. Don't use a soft surface like a bed, the instructor said. Keep your feet flat. Engage the core. Don't pull your neck. Oh, Vaughn muttered, touching his throbbing neck. That's what is wrong. With a groan of misery, he rolled off the comfortable bed and onto the hard, cold, tiled floor. This time, Vaughn tried again. It was significantly harder on the floor and without pulling his neck. It took him almost 3 minutes of struggling before the system finally counted his first sit-up. 156. He was already breathing hard, but that was progress. So Vaughn kept on going with more determination. 1 hour later, 49, 50. Do 50 sit-ups, 50-50. Vaughn finally completed the first objective. He was tired, yes, but he didn't feel so bad because he had rested between the reps. He decided to rest for some minutes before he continued with the next mission. Dragging himself up to check the mirror, Vaughn felt like the effects were showing already. He wasn't too sure, but his stomach felt tighter. That fueled him more and made him determined to complete the next quest. He quickly went to the bathroom and splashed water on his face. He didn't bother changing out of his night clothes. He was wearing a loose, oversized t-shirt and a pair of checkered pajama pants. He looked around for his sneakers, but then remembered he had none. Only Zach's own were available, and usually he would force them into his legs, but this time he decided to respect his roommate. Slippers it is, he sighed. He slid his feet into a pair of worn-out rubber slippers and left the house. It was past 9 a.m. already, and the streets of the university campus were already bustling with life. The sun was bright, and students were rushing to lectures, carrying books and coffees, chatting in groups. Many glanced in his direction as he began running. A large guy in pajamas running at an odd hour was hard to miss. Some of the students even stared for a second too long. But Vaughn didn't feel intimidated in the slightest. He slowed his jog to a walk, wiped his sweaty forehead, and returned the stares with a glare of his own. "What are you looking at, punks?" His sharp reaction scared the onlookers, and they quickly looked away and hurried off with their activities. Vaughn scoffed and kept moving. His plan was simple: just keep running up the street until the panel clocked 2.5 kilometers, then turn around. Guanthurtund, 48 a.m. Vaughn stumbled back to his dorm door, heaving and panting. He had done it. It might have involved more walking than running, but the distance was cleared. Run 5 kilometers, 5/5. Physical objectives complete. Sub-reward distributed. Stamina recovery pill. A small red pill materialized in his palm. Vaughn didn't think over it. He popped the pill into his mouth and allowed it to dissolve. Instantly, a cool, refreshing sensation washed over his body. It started in his stomach and spread to his limbs. The fire in his lungs vanished. The jelly feeling in his legs solidified back into functional muscle. "Oh wow," Vaughn breathed, standing up straight and stretching his arms. "This is magical." Feeling energized, he freshened up and changed his clothes quickly. Now for the final step. Give your junk foods to the needy, 100%. This was a very difficult task for Vaughn. He loved eating, and he couldn't imagine life without those snacks. But when his mind drifted to the thought of what his body turned into when he died, Vaughn steeled himself and began packing them up. As he packed, the thought of eating just one existed. After all, he was starving after the workout. But then, the fear of failing the quest because of a slip was greater. Anytime Vaughn left out even a single snack, the counter didn't fill. So he hunted down every candy bar, every hidden bag of chips, until it finally reached 100%. All done with that stage, Vaughn called his sister again. "Hey sis, you ready?" "Yes, Vaughn. I'm on the way to the cafe right now." Nana's voice was warm. Are you okay? Do you still feel good after the workout?" "Haha, of course I do. I told you already that I feel great. The 3 miles didn't even feel like anything." He inwardly thanked the pill for that as he spoke. "That aside, I'll be meeting you at the cafe. I should be there in 10 minutes. "Okay, love," she replied. "I'll be waiting." After the call hung up, Vaughn thought about his plans to go to the cafe. Usually he would have called an Uber, but the money in my account balance, it's not mine, it's Nana's, and I'll return all of it today. Vaughn grabbed the heavy bag of junk food, slung it over his shoulder, and walked out the door, ready to walk to the cafe. He scanned the streets as he walked, looking for someone to give the food to. He remembered seeing a homeless family near the campus in his past life, but the streets were empty of anyone but students today. He couldn't just dump the bag on the sidewalk, so he had to carry it with him. 20 minutes later, Vaughn walked into the campus grind cafe. "Vaughn, over here." He located Naomi's table immediately and took a seat opposite hers, placing the big black bag beside him on the floor. Naomi looked at the bag curiously. What's inside the bag, Vaughn? Vaughn leaned back in his chair, acting casual. Oh, those? Just snacks and all? I don't need them anymore, so I thought it would be best if I gave them away. Naomi's eyes were watery already. She looked at him as if she were trying to figure out if this was really the brother she knew. Vaughn, she whispered, that's so kind of you. Vaughn laughed. Not really. It's your money anyway. But well, I called this meeting for something. Naomi gave her attention after seeing how serious he looked. I never once asked you about Mom and Dad's debts. Well, I'm ready to listen now. Chapter 4. New Vaughn 2. Less than a year ago, a drunk driver had crossed the median on I-95, slamming into the Varley's sedan. In an instant, Vaughn and Naomi were orphans. The fallout was catastrophic for them. Their parents had no life insurance, and Naomi had to bury her own dreams of college, along with her parents. Despite being only a year older than Vaughn, she stepped up to shield Vaughn from the harshest realities. Their only capable relative, Uncle Ken, had swooped in like a vulture. Instead of helping, he produced a stack of IOUs signed by their father, claiming the family home as collateral and kicking them out. Naomi had managed to salvage a small savings account their mother had hidden away. It was enough to keep them afloat for a year, maybe 2 if they were frugal. But Vaughn, blinded by grief and denial, had insisted on attending the university, refusing to be a dropout like his sister. Now, the savings were gone, and the reality was setting in. I'm all ears, Vaughn pressured, after noticing Naomi was still hesitating. She gave in and spoke. You see, Dad wasn't just bad with money, Vaughn. He was a gambling addict, and that led him to keep borrowing from loan sharks. With no steady job, that was how they kept the lights on for us. But after the accident, the debts came to us. I have to pay interest every week. Just the interest. And if I miss a payment, they said they'd send someone to find us. Vaughn sighed, running a hand through his hair. He couldn't believe he had been so blind. While he was complaining about cafeteria food, she was paying protection money. Just the thought made him angry with himself, as shame burned in his chest. That was the old Vaughn, he reminded himself firmly. I'm a new Vaughn now. I'll fix this. He looked straight at Naomi. This debt, how large of a sum are we talking about? Naomi bit her lip and whispered the number. 300,000. 300 grand. Vaughn couldn't help but repeat in shock. Only after Naomi nodded did the horror settle in. He forced a smile, though it felt brittle. Don't worry about it, sis. I'll do something about it. He said it to comfort her. But internally, Vaughn was screaming. $300,000. If only he had been a sports fanatic in his past life. He could have bet on some games, or if he had paid attention to the crypto market, was it Dogcoin that blew up? Or is it Bobcoin? He grimaced. He couldn't remember. And even if he did, the butterfly effect was a real threat. One wrong move, and he could change the timeline, erasing his advantage. No, he had to leverage the one thing he knew inside out: entertainment. He still remembered some of the movies and songs that had become hits. If he executed his plans properly, $300K would be pocket change. He looked at Naomi. Are you hungry, Nana? No, I ate before I... Vaughn gave her a serious stare that cut off her protest. I'm famished, and you also look like you haven't eaten. So we're eating. He ordered 2 large breakfast platters and paid with the cash from his account. It was Nana's money. Yes, but feeding her was the best way to spend it. As they ate, Vaughn kept the conversation light. He asked about her well-being, about her friends. But he noticed something odd. Every time he asked about her job, she shifted in her seat and gave vague answers. She must really not like her job, Vaughn thought with sympathy. Suddenly, the cafe speakers blasted a loud, energetic jingle, interrupting his thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to become the next big thing? Vaughn and Naomi turned toward the mounted TV in the corner. The screen flashed with a high-budget montage. Screaming crowds in stadiums, confetti raining down, contestants collapsing in tears of joy. The logo spun onto the screen in gold and diamond letters. Project Star. After a 2-year hiatus, the phenomenon is back, Season 5 is in full swing, the announcer boomed. We are recruiting 200 of the nation's most talented musicians to come to Hollywood for the ultimate showdown. The screen shifted to a graphic of a contract being signed. Grand prize. Cloudery record deal and 1 million cash. Auditions begin February 2nd. A map of the United States appeared, highlighting major cities: New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Miami. Are you ready to become a star? Vaughn stared at the screen. He felt something within him, like it was destiny. That prize money was all he needed. Ding! A semi-transparent purple box appeared right over his vision. Quest. Opportunity knocks. Description: a superstar does not wait for the spotlight, they seize it. The stage is set, and history is waiting to be rewritten. Objective: register for the Project Star Miami auditions. Qualify for the Hollywood Week round. Choice: accept, decline. Acceptance reward. New skill: inspect. Failure penalty: taste bud paralysis 30 days. Vaughn shivered. I'll lose my taste buds? The system wasn't messing around. It was dangling a carrot and holding a hammer at the same time. Remember? Naomi's soft voice broke his trance. She was watching him watch the screen. That day in the garage. When you were 12, you stood on that crate with the broomstick and promised me you'd be on that show one day. Vaughn truly remembered. Being a star wasn't just a childhood wish. It was the obsession that had driven him to pressure Naomi into paying for university in the first place. His grand plan had been to study theater arts, convinced it was his gateway to fame. But he had been rejected flat out. Now, he was just rotting away in the psychology department, studying a subject he didn't care about just to keep up the charade, all while Naomi paid the price. But the show brought back a darker memory than that. In the original timeline, around this exact time, he had auditioned. Naomi had been the one that pressured him into doing so. But he had failed, and he had done so miserably. His audition even became popular due to how much of a fail it was. It had been the final nail in the coffin of his confidence, driving him into his room and into the depression that eventually killed him. Naomi saw the shadow pass over his face. She reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Vaughn, I know you're nervous, she said gently. But remember, this is your dream. Aim for the moon, and if you miss, you're bound to hit one of the stars. Vaughn looked her in the eyes. Nana, do you really think I can make it? Of course, Vaughn, she said without hesitation. I believe in you. You can do anything you want to. And I've always told you, you're a great singer, perhaps the greatest I've heard. My F in vocals has something else to say about that, Vaughn thought wryly. But Vaughn wasn't worried. This time was different. He wasn't just a delusional kid. He had a system. He had future hits in his head. He could change things. I'm going to register, Nana, but only on one condition. What condition, Vaughnie? Vaughn didn't protest her usual girly nickname. He just squeezed her hand back. If I win some money from there, you quit that job. You quit everything, and you chase your dreams. I know how much you wanted to go to art school, and I can't let you give up on your dream either. Naomi's face fell. A dejected look crossed her features as she remembered the acceptance letter she had thrown away years ago. But Vaughnie? The money. Vaughn smiled proudly, pointing a thumb at the TV screen behind him. Don't you see that cash prize? The money won't be an issue when the time comes. Just make this promise first. Naomi looked at him. She saw the conviction in his eyes. She couldn't refuse him. Okay, Vaughnie, she whispered, a tear slipping down her cheek. If you're successful, I'll do as you say. I'll chase my dreams. And I'll register for the auditions and go all the way, Vaughn vowed. The two siblings leaned over the table, hooking their pinky fingers together in a promise. Chapter 5, First Fan. After parting ways with Naomi, Vaughn scanned the area until he finally spotted the homeless family he remembered. They were sitting on a bench near the bus stop, a mother and two small children. He approached them quietly and offered the heavy bag. Initially, letting go of the snacks pained him. But seeing the happy smile bloom on the mother's face, and the way the kid's eyes lit up at the sight of the cookies, filled him with a strange warmth. It feels so nice to be a good person, Vaughn thought, surprised by the sensation. It was better than the sugar rush. Filled with newfound energy, he trekked back to his dorm. When he arrived, he was relieved to find the room empty. He locked the door and immediately focused his attention on the purple interface hovering in the air. Quest, daily task. Run 5 kilometers, 5/5. Do 50 sit-ups, 50 over 50. Give your junk foods to the needy, 100%. Quest objectives complete. Reward distributed, +5 EXP. Ding! Congratulations, you have acquired your first fan. Milestone rewards, +100 EXP, 1x Star Shop voucher. EXP, 105. Amazing. This is just perfect, Vaughn said, his eyes gleaming at the triple-digit number. He knew immediately who the fan was. It had to be Nana. Her belief in him at the cafe must have triggered the system's recognition. It made him wonder just how the system quantified fandom, but he pushed the thought aside. He had 105 EXP burning a hole in his pocket. Originally, his plan was to dump everything into vocals to fix that abysmal F grade before the Project Star auditions. But the Star Shop voucher was calling to him. To gamble or not to gamble, Vaughn muttered. He could use the EXP safely, or he could see what kind of cheat items the system was hiding. Vaughn grinned. Life is a gamble. He mentally activated the voucher. The item vanished from his inventory, and the air in front of him shimmered. A holographic display case unfolded like a high-tech jewelry box. 3 items floated on rotating pedestals, each represented by a glowing icon. Consumable. Stamina recovery pill. Cost. 100 EXP. Description. Instantly restores physical energy and clears fatigue. Skill. Emote. Cost. 300 EXP. Description. Allows the user to project an emotion or persona they do not actually feel. Requirement. Vocals, Skill. Basic instrumental mastery. Cost. 100 EXP. Description. Instantly grants muscle memory and proficiency in standard instruments. Guitar, piano, drums. Vaughn stared, awestruck. These are insane. Emote was incredible. But at 300 EXP, it was way out of his budget. That left the pill and the mastery. Considering the pill as an option was stupidity. So there was only an obvious one. Basic instrumental mastery felt too good to be true. To instantly learn how to play instruments, that would save him months, maybe years of practice. I need to know how to play if I'm going to replicate the songs from my world, Vaughn reasoned. He couldn't just hum the melodies, he needed to accompany himself. I'll take the mastery. He selected the skill. Immediately, a glowing, translucent green apple appeared in his palm. Warnunk. You have 10 seconds to consume the skill fruit. Item cannot be stored. 10 seconds. Vaughn panicked. He shoved the entire apple into his mouth, chewing frantically. He expected it to be hard, but it was soft and chewy, dissolving on his tongue like cotton candy. Okay. Vaughn gulped when he was done, looking at his hands. Now what's next? Do I burp musical notes? An electric shock coursed through his body, vibrating deep in his bones. It wasn't painful exactly, but it left him numb, his fingers twitching involuntarily, as if they were playing invisible chords. Whoa. Vaughn breathed as the sensation faded. He flexed his fingers. They felt smarter. Skill acquired. Basic instrumental mastery. A new notification popped up. Shop closing. You can wishlist remaining items for your next visit. 2 slots available. Oh, nice service, Vaughn said. He immediately selected the emote skill. Wait for Daddy. I'll come back for you. The shop vanished, replaced by the final reward from his earlier quest. Quest chain unlocked. The road to stardom. Quest, the Foundation 2-0. Description: a superstar is defined by their following. Objective: acquire 50 loyal fans. Current: 150. Rewards: +500 EXP. Skill: Resonance amplifies emotional projection during performance. 3x Star Shop Vouchers. Time left to quest failure. 15 days. Wow. Vaughn whistled. The rewards were getting exponentially better, and he was salivating already. But 50 fans? Vaughn's excitement cooled. How the hell am I supposed to get 50 fans in 2 weeks? If the quest had been to make 50 friends, he would have still failed. But fans? People who adored his music? That was an even worse assignment. A light bulb lit up in Vaughn's head. The easiest way to get an audience without a stage is the street, busking. It would help him complete the quest and serve as a live practice session for the audition. This is brilliant. I'm a genius. He needed a guitar. But before that, he needed a song. He grabbed a sheet of notebook paper and a pen. He closed his eyes, thinking back to his previous life. There was one song he had loved, a track released in 2022 that had captured the hearts of some music fans. It was raw, acoustic, and perfect for a solo performance. Vaughn hummed the melody. To his surprise, his hand moved almost automatically, jotting down the chords above the lyrics. The instrumental mastery was working. He knew exactly which chords matched the sounds in his head. It took him close to an hour to draft the arrangement. When he was done, he held up the paper, admiring his work. I really wrote this masterpiece, he grinned shamelessly. He folded the paper and tucked it into his pocket. Now for the hard part. The song required an acoustic guitar, which Vaughn didn't have, and definitely couldn't afford. But he wasn't worried. He turned slowly, his eyes landing on the corner of the room, his flat-screen TV, his PlayStation 4, the stack of limited edition games he had treasured more than his grades. Oh well. Vaughn sighed, patting the console gently. I guess I'll have to say goodbye to more than just the junk food. Chapter $600 tip. Vaughn managed to trade off all his former stuff for $300. The price was far less than their value, but that was the best he could get from a pawn shop. He also bought a beat-up acoustic guitar while he was at it, having to cough out $90 from his windfall. Vaughn considered where to play for a moment before deciding on Lincoln Road Mall. It was a pedestrian-only outdoor mall in South Beach and had lots of tourists and locals walking by, so it was the best place for him to impress people. When he arrived, it was almost 4 p.m. The sun was setting, but the mall was bustling with people carrying shopping bags and ice cream cones. Vaughn found a lonely bench by a fountain and sat down before opening his soft guitar bag in front of him. He gripped the guitar neck and it felt naturally safe in his hands. He masterfully tuned it, his fingers twisting the pegs with an instinct he hadn't possessed hours ago. He noticed he captured stares from some passers-by as he played a warm-up melody. But most people were busy and soon went back to their activities. 1, 2, 3. On his count, he began playing a soft acoustic melody. When he began playing, he began getting more attention from how masterfully he picked the strings. Some people actually stopped to look. The only time I sat and waited for the sunrise was when I saw the fear of leaving in your brown eyes. The opening line alone caused many to turn and immediately return to their various activities. Vaughn sensed their reactions, and his face paled. They don't like it. Maybe I'm not loud enough. He played the melody longer before he continued, this time trying to hit higher notes. This is just separation, babe. It's all fine. Making quiet calculations on the long drive, everyone on the street lost it at that moment. Some even began to cover their ears in horror. Vaughn smiled wryly upon realizing that his singing was bad. Fuck you, F vocals, he screamed inwardly. He decided to start again. This time, he only played the melody, which he noticed that some people liked. So he kept playing the intro. After playing the intro on repeat for over 5 minutes like he was building suspense, Vaughn took in a deep breath and decided to go for it again. This time he decided not to be loud when he sang. The only time I sat and waited for the sunrise was when I saw the fear of leaving in your brown eyes. Seeing everyone who passed him increase their pace, Vaughn realized he wasn't the only one not feeling it. This dragged version sucks. He used inspect on the piece. The performance completion was a mere 13%, with 100% representing the actual song. It became clear to Vaughn that he couldn't sing. But that didn't discourage him in the slightest. I might as well practice before a live audience. So Vaughn resumed playing the guitar before he began again. The only time I sat and waited for the sunrise. No, that's not it. The only time I sat and waited for the sunrise. For the next 30 minutes, Vaughn kept practicing the song and trying different styles, hoping to be better. Practice makes perfect. After 45 minutes, he believed he had done the song some level of justice, so he went again. This time he closed his eyes and tried to feel the music as he played. "Hey, buddy." Vaughn was barely done with the first part when a voice interrupted him. He opened his eyes. A man dressed in a black business suit was standing right in front of him. A hopeful smile broke across Vaughn's sweaty face as the man reached into his wallet. "My first fan," Vaughn's heart soared. "Here," the man pulled out a $100 bill and dropped it into the open guitar case. "Thank you," Vaughn beamed, strumming a victorious chord. "Any requests?" "Yeah," the man said, rubbing his temples. "Can you stop? Like, completely? I'm trying to have a phone call 3 blocks away, and I can still hear you dying." Vaughn's smile froze. "Take the $100, the man pleaded. "Just go home, please." Vaughn stared at the money and back at him. He decided to take his opportunity. "Thanks once again, good sir. For $300, you won't see me here the next day," he promised with a serious look and a pouted expression that tried to scream cute. The man could only stomp his feet in anger and leave. Fucking retard. Meanwhile, Vaughn's heart twitched at the massive opportunity he just missed. He could tell the man was loaded because of what he saw through inspect. Name: unknown. Vocals: dia. Skill: none. A D was a big deal. Through the course of the day, Vaughn hadn't even seen someone on the E level, but this man was 2 levels above him. He must be a singer or something, Vaughn thought to himself. Oh, well, let's continue. Vaughn went back to strumming the guitar. He didn't get a fan yet, but $100 on his first day was big progress. The only time I sat, "Hey, stop there." Unfortunately for him, he was interrupted again. 2 security guards walked by, and this time it didn't seem like they wanted to tip him to stop. "You're disturbing the peace and quiet of this great place," the burly guard said. "If you can't play something useful, then scram." For $100, Vaughn pushed his luck. A hard, long look from the guard was enough for him to pack up his guitar and leave. Chapter 7. Professor Zach. After a quick, agonizingly healthy dinner at the campus cafeteria, Vaughn made his way back to the dorm. It was already 6:30 in the evening. When he pushed the door open, he wasn't surprised to find Zach sitting at his desk, surrounded by thick textbooks and a laptop. "Hey, Zach, what's up, man?" Zach took off his headphones and turned away from the screen, his eyes scanning Vaughn up and down. His gaze lingered on the empty corner where the TV used to be, then settled on the black gig bag slung over Vaughn's shoulder. "Vaughn," Zach greeted, his tone polite but puzzled. "I couldn't help but notice the room is significantly emptier than it was this morning. What did you do with all your electronics? And is that a guitar?" Vaughn grinned, dropping onto his bed. He was exhausted after the long day, but he felt accomplished. "Yep," he said, patting the case. "I sold all of them to get this bad boy." Zach raised an eyebrow. "I never knew you played the guitar. Frankly, I didn't even know you were interested in music beyond listening to it." Vaughn shrugged as he unzipped the case, revealing the scratched wooden body of his new partner. "Well, now you know. I assume you didn't attend any classes today then?" Zach asked, sounding less like a roommate and more like a concerned parent. "Are you coming from the pawn shop?" Vaughn bit his lip wryly. This was exactly why he used to hate Zach in his past life. The guy was a walking interrogation room. He always wanted to know everything, always had to be the responsible one. It used to feel condescending. Now Vaughn realized it was just who Zach was, and he didn't mind it as much. "Well, I did go to the pawn shop," Vaughn admitted. "But then I went busking at South Beach. Lincoln Road." "Lincoln Road?" Zach looked genuinely surprised. Wow, that's bold. How did it go? Did you perform well? Vaughn stopped tuning the guitar and raised his head proudly. Of course I did. I made $100. $100 on your first day? Zach nodded appreciatively. That's impressive for a beginner. You must be quite talented. A thought crossed Vaughn's mind. He needed fans. Zach was right here. By the way, Vaughn said casually, I'm trying to build a following. How'd you like to become my second ever fan? Zach smiled politely. Sure, Vaughn, I'll be your fan. Vaughn waited. Current fans. 1. The number didn't budge. Vaughn sighed. Either he's a terrible liar, or this system has high standards. He looked at Zach. You don't believe me, do you? Why don't I play something for you? I'm actually curious to hear what you think. Zach turned his chair around fully. With pleasure. I would love to hear it. Vaughn positioned the guitar and began with the intro. Zach kept nodding his head to the melody, which Vaughn dragged out for a while as he tried to gain composure first. The last thing he wanted to do was make a fool of himself in front of Zach. After mustering enough confidence, Vaughn began singing, and as he went on, he began to notice that Zach actually paid attention. His facial expression didn't change negatively, and he even allowed Vaughn to sing the full song for the very first time. If you want to come home, then you gotta come home. Vaughn let the final note ring out, plucking the low E string for a deep, resonant finish that vibrated against his chest. Clap, clap, clap. Zach stood up from his chair. Clapping slowly, immediately, Vaughn finished. Vaughn's heart softened. You really liked my singing? Oh no, Zach replied matter-of-factly. Your singing is atrocious, truly terrible. But, Zach continued, the song itself, that is something special. The melody structure, the lyricism, it's sophisticated. Wow, Vaughn, I'm grateful to you for introducing me to this masterpiece. Who is the original artist? I'd like to look it up. Vaughn dropped his guitar onto the bed in annoyance. There is no original. I wrote it myself. Whoa there. Zach blinked. Excuse me? Vaughn fixed him with a hard stare. I said I wrote it. Is there a problem with that? Zach looked at him, searching for any sign of a lie. Finding none, his expression shifted from skepticism to awe. Wow, it's brilliant, Zach murmured. If only you had the vocal talent to match the composition. But have you released it anywhere? Not really. Do you have a recorded version, at least? A demo? No, Vaughn said, getting irritated. I don't. What's with the 20 questions? Do you think I stole it? Zach shook his head. No, Vaughn. That's not it at all. I'm asking because performing an original composition of this quality in a public space without any form of copyright protection is risky. Intellectual property theft is rampant in the music industry. If a producer happened to walk by Lincoln Road today and heard that melody, they could record it, register it, and sue you for singing it later. Without a paper trail, you would be defenseless. You say what now? Vaughn blinked. You need to create a time-stamped record of creation, Zach explained rapidly. Email the lyrics and a voice memo to yourself. Upload a private video to a cloud server. Anything that proves you possess this intellectual property on this date, it could save you millions in future litigation. Vaughn stared at him. He finally understood. The kid wasn't trying to annoy him, he was trying to protect him. Thanks for the advice, man, Vaughn said, his voice softening. I'll record it first thing tomorrow. Good. Zach nodded in satisfaction. He sat back down but didn't return to his PC. That aside, why the sudden decision to sell your belongings and buy a guitar? I've never seen this side of you. What changed? Vaughn looked at the guitar. You've heard of Project Star. I plan on auditioning. You think I'll make it far? Zach pursed his lips, considering the question logically. Obviously, with your current vocal ability, no. But I'm a huge music enthusiast, he added shyly. I've studied music theory as a hobby for some time. Perhaps I could help you train. If you have the talent there, we might see good progress before the auditions. Vaughn didn't consider rejecting the offer. Even though he was banking on EXP to save his vocals, it didn't hurt to get an extra hand on board. He outstretched his hands. "Okay, Professor Zack, you've gained a student." Zack grinned and returned Vaughn's firm hand. "Excellent. Class starts tomorrow, Mr. Varley. Congratulations, you've gained a loyal fan. Current fans, too." Chapter 8, Homeless Fan. The rain began as a gentle mist, but quickly escalated into a steady downpour, splattering softly against the lonely streets of Lincoln Road. It was a late hour, and the usual crowd of tourists had long since retreated. On a wooden bench near the fountain, two figures sat exposed to the elements. One was a man hunched over, his clothes ragged and soaked, and his head bent low in defeat. The other was Vaughn. The rain plastered his black hair to his forehead, giving him a raw, cinematic look. He ignored the water dripping down his neck. He was deeply absorbed in his craft, his fingers dancing over the wet strings of his guitar. But the weather was merely a backdrop. The real storm was in the melody he was playing, a melancholic, hopeful tune that cut through the sound of the rain. "You're gonna come home. You're gonna come home. You're gonna come home." Vaughn's voice, now raspy from hours of singing, carried a weight it hadn't possessed before. "If you want to come home, then you gotta come home." He let the final chord fade into the sound of the rain. The man on the bench slowly lifted his head. His eyes were red, washed clean by the rain and tears. He stood up stiffly and walked toward Vaughn. "Sir," the man's rough voice cracked, "your song, it really touched me." He wiped his nose with a dirty sleeve. "I ran away from my folks 6 months ago, just packed up and left because I was too proud to admit I messed up. I've been sleeping out here, thinking about going back every day, but the shame, it was too much." He looked at Vaughn, his eyes pleading. "Hearing that, it brought back memories I thought I killed. It gave me back something I lost. Thank you." He bent down, intending to kneel on the wet pavement, careful not to touch Vaughn with his grimy hands. Suddenly, he felt warmth envelope him. Vaughn had pulled off his own jacket and draped it over the man's shivering shoulders. Before the man could react, Vaughn pulled him into a firm hug, ignoring the smell and the dirt. "Sorry, bud," Vaughn said softly, patting the man's back. "I understand there's a hard life out there, and we all make mistakes, but trust me, every mistake can be fixed. It's all a matter of you." Vaughn pulled back, gripping the man's shoulders. He pointed a finger at the man's chest. "Now man up. Go back to your family if you want to. They'll be waiting for you. Trust me." Tears welled up in the man's eyes again. He pulled Vaughn into a tighter hug, sobbing openly now. Thank you. I won't forget you. I'm going back tonight." Vaughn ignored the snot on his shoulder. He patted the man one last time as they broke the embrace. "Best of luck, pal." The man punched his chest in a silent salute. Vaughn watched him turn and walk away, his step lighter, heading toward the bus station. Vaughn checked his phone. 11:39 p.m. "That was a close one," he whispered. Ding. "Congratulations, you've gained a loyal fan. Current fans, 50. Acquire 50 loyal fans, 50 over 50. Quest objectives completed." Vaughn grinned from ear to ear. If not for the bone-chilling cold, he would have jumped up and punched the air. He was mere minutes away from failing the quest, but his decision to pull an all-nighter had paid off. As a cherry on top, he had genuinely changed someone's life. It filled him with a fulfillment that rivaled the system rewards. Crackle, boom. A crack of thunder shook the sky. The rain intensified, turning from a drizzle into a deluge. "Right?" Vaughn muttered, grabbing his guitar case. "Time to go." He broke into a run, sprinting through the empty streets as the storm chased him home. Vaughn burst into the dorm room, dripping wet. Zack was still awake, hunched over his laptop at his desk. "Of course," Vaughn muttered. The guy never slept. Zack took off his headphones immediately as the lights flickered on. He spun around, his eyes widening. "You're back," Zack said, sounding relieved. "I was worried sick about you. It's pouring out there." Vaughn grabbed a towel from his rack and started drying his hair aggressively. "Yeah, I saw your missed calls. I was busking. At this time, Zach raised an eyebrow. Yup. Felt like staying longer. The acoustics in the rain are different. Vaughn shivered, but the cold felt good. It felt like victory. Zach turned back to his laptop, adjusting his glasses. I advise you not to stay out so late in the future. It's not safe, Vaughn. Vaughn pointed a thumb at Zach, making a face like the Jerry Mouse meme. Okay, Dad. He quickly took a warm shower and brewed a cup of instant coffee. Feeling human again, he jumped onto his bed, ready to unravel his rewards. System. Status. Superstar System. Status Panel. BIO. Name. Vaughn Varley. Age. 18. Class. Student. Title. Street Performer. System Level. 0. Stats. Vocals. E-030. Composition. F-010. Charm. C-0-4-300. Willpower. C-0-300. Progression. Skills. Basic Instrument Mastery. Resonance. EXP. 600. Current fans 50. Quests. Unavailable. Star Shop. 6 vouchers. Vaughn tapped on his new title. Street Performer. You stand out in chaotic environments. Whenever equipped, crowds are 20% less likely to interrupt or protest your performance. Vaughn didn't know what had gotten him the title. He had just received it out of the blue while performing earlier today. As a reward for obtaining his first title, the system had rewarded him with 100 EXP and 3-star vouchers. He couldn't say no to free rewards, so he accepted them without questions. His eyes drifted to his charm and willpower. They had skyrocketed. His charm had risen naturally alongside his ridiculous physical transformation. While most of the transformation came from Vaughn's new habits, the system's strange daily quest rewards had a heavy hand to play. Pills like the metabolism booster made him burn calories like a furnace while working out. And the stamina recovery pill ensured he was never left breathless. It was a dream for anyone who wanted to lose weight. Even Zach, who saw him every day, looked at him with confusion sometimes, unable to comprehend the speed of the change. Once his physique stabilized, the system had stopped giving him workout quests. Instead, it had pivoted to singing or casual challenges. Between the system's EXP rewards and Zach's relentless coaching, Vaughn had improved. Zach had drilled the importance of authenticity into him. You don't have the range yet, Zach would say. So don't try to hit the high notes. Focus on control. Focus on the emotion. If you can't sing it perfectly, sing it honestly. It had helped immensely, and Vaughn was grateful to his roommate. But now, staring at 600 EXP, he knew he was going to make the biggest improvement before the big day tomorrow. Actually, he checked the time. It was past 12 a.m. The big day is today, Vaughn corrected himself. The Miami auditions. His first instinct was to dump all 600 EXP into vocals. He wasn't composing real originals yet, so composition was useless. He needed a better voice to survive the judges. But he had another option: skills. Vaughn chewed his lip. It was a tough decision. Pure stats versus utility. Think, Vaughn, think. He realized something. The new skill he just got from the quest. Resonance, amplified emotional projection. If he combined that with emote to assume a fake emotion and then make everyone relate to it. It's the perfect combo for a performer, Vaughn realized. He made his choice. He would buy the skill and dump the rest into vocals. He used a voucher, and the holographic case unfolded like before. Consumable, complete instrument mastery. Cost, 1,000 EXP. Skill, emote, saved. Cost, 300 EXP. Requirement: vocals, consumable. Zone state. Description: enters a state of extreme focus, the zone, for 1 hour where processing speed and creativity peaks. Cost: 1,000 EXP. Grade A. Vaughn almost choked at the third one. Zone state? That was legendary. He stared at it and was tempted already, but 1,000 EXP was impossible right now. Wow, he breathed. I'm definitely saving that for later. He selected emote. A small white fruit, no bigger than a grape, appeared in his hand. Vaughn popped it into his mouth, and it dissolved instantly. This time, there was no electric shock, just a cool feeling settling behind his eyes. Skill acquired, emote. He looked at his remaining 300 EXP and dumped it all into vocals. Vocals, D plus 0/100. EXP 10. He remembered the man who had paid him to stop singing. That guy had been a D. I can't believe I've surpassed that guy already. Vaughn laughed. Oh well, we keep moving. He turned off the lamp, lying back on his pillow with a peaceful smile. Tomorrow we conquer the auditions. Vaughn closed his eyes, drifting into dreams of him performing before cheering crowds. Chapter 9. Preliminary Auditions. Miami Convention Center, 7 a.m. It was a zoo. That was the only way Vaughn could describe the scene before him. The sun hadn't even fully risen over the Miami skyline, but the concrete plaza outside the convention center was already packed to the brim. There were thousands of people, dreamers, weirdos, and desperate souls, all clamoring for a shot at stardom. Vaughn had just received his number from the registration booth and currently stood in a queue that seemed infinite. Holding his guitar tightly, he felt awed, almost underdressed, even in his plain black t-shirt and jeans. Why? Because standing directly to his left was a man dressed as a life-sized banana, and to his right was a girl in a full gothic Lolita maid outfit, holding a stuffed cat that she was actively having a conversation with. Everyone be doing too much. Vaughn couldn't help but mutter. Cameras were flashing everywhere. Crew members from Project Star were weaving through the lines, filming B-roll footage for the show. Because of that, everyone wanted to be noticed. Some of them weren't even interested in the actual auditions. They just wanted to get on TV. That was why they wore the costumes. If you looked ridiculous enough, you might get 5 seconds of screen time in the bloopers montage. Vaughn looked down at the sticker on his chest. Mamus Merrick Marks Nakfro Mark Nax Nark 1 Marks Mark Nax Right. Mark Skell Mark Nax Right Nark 1. Even though he had arrived as early as 6:30 a.m., he was still beaten by over 1,000 people. And to think that some from neighboring cities had traveled to Miami just for this. Vaughn sighed. At least it wasn't as bad as his past life. Back then, his turn never came even after waiting until they closed the doors at 7 p.m. He had been forced to come back the next day and wait all over again, only to be rejected in seconds. He looked at the banana man, who was already sweating. I pity all of those putting on costumes, Vaughn thought. They'll feel it when the sun rises. 5 hours later. The sun was high now, baking the pavement, and the excitement in the air had naturally curdled into exhaustion. Makeup was melting. The banana man had taken off his peel headpiece and was fanning himself with it, looking like a half-peeled, sweaty mess. Many others that were singing loudly earlier had long since stopped and were now sitting on folding chairs, complaining about their hips and dehydration. But Vaughn was still standing. He didn't even feel tired. Thanks to his better physique, standing for 5 hours was merely a warm-up. What he felt above anything was boredom, so he had taken the time to observe the competition. Name, unknown. Vocals, F. Skill, none. Name, unknown. Vocals, E. Vitus. Skill, none. Most of the people he saw were average, although he saw some people who had slightly better stats than him. None of them stood out, until he looked at the girl sitting on the curb a few feet away. Name, unknown. Vocals, B+. Skill, title, hymn. Description: the user's music mimics the restorative flow of the ocean, projecting raw emotion that heals the soul. Vaughn was speechless. He had scanned hundreds, if not thousands, of people today. The highest grade he had seen was a base C. But here was someone 4 levels above that. The girl was dressed in a simple, flowy sundress. She oddly had blue hair with purple highlights that looked natural. She was sitting quietly on the curb, reading a thick book and completely ignoring the chaos around her. She had a certain presence to her. It was like she wasn't just avoiding the noise, but the noise was actively avoiding her. There was a bubble of calm around her that Vaughn could almost feel. Talent is everywhere, Vaughn realized with a wry smile. My D-plus vocals are nothing compared to that. But he had skills, something that none of them except her had, so Vaughn hoped that would be enough. Finally, a staff member with a megaphone walked down the line. Group 102, follow me. Have your ID and registration number ready. Vaughn adjusted his guitar strap and smiled. It's showtime. They were led inside the building, down a maze of hallways until they reached the audition room. It wasn't the glamorous TV set Vaughn had seen on screen. It was a large, partitioned conference room that didn't look well polished at all. The room was divided into 10 lanes by flimsy curtains. At the end of the room, facing the lanes, sat a producer with a grumpy and tired face that screamed underpaid worker. The producer drank from the styrofoam cup on his desk, scribbled something on a large notebook, and looked up with dead eyes. Okay, listen up. You have only 30 seconds to impress me. I don't want to hear your introductions. Just sing. Understood? Everyone nodded from their respective lanes. Lane 1, go. Lane 1 held a man dressed up as an elf. He didn't hold an instrument. He just approached the microphone stand and began. Is this real life, baby? Can you? Stop, the producer said. He didn't even look up as he wrote in his notebook. Next. The man tried to plead, opening his mouth to argue, but the producer just pointed at the exit. The elf humbled himself quickly and left, dragging his feet. Vaughn sighed in pity as he looked at the man's watery eyes. He remembered back then he had tried to fight with the guards and had embarrassed himself after earning a second chance that he blew. At least the dude respected himself, Vaughn thought. Lane 2, the judge called out. The person in Lane 2 was the blue-haired girl Vaughn had met outside, the one with B-bluff vocals. Vaughn paid close attention. He was genuinely curious to hear what such a talent sounded like. The girl stepped forward. She didn't look nervous. She reached into her bag and brought out a silver flute Vaughn hadn't known she had. Shocking everyone, she began playing. Fwee, da-da-dum. The sound wasn't shrill. It was deep, breathy, and flowed with an undeniable frequency. It felt like cool water washing over the stuffy room. Even though the tune the flute produced was soft and melodic, the judge frowned. He opened his mouth, about to remind her that this was a singing audition. But before he could speak, she lowered the flute and let her voice take over the frequency seamlessly. When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. Her voice was even clearer than the flute. For the few seconds she sang, everyone in the room froze. It wasn't powerful, but it carried a softness that gave them goosebumps. It felt like a heavy weight had been lifted off their shoulders. She brought the flute back to her lips. Fwee, da-da-dum. The judge didn't stop her. He stared at her, entranced, his pen hovering over the paper. He didn't realize she had reached the time limit until the flute stopped echoing. He shook his head, clearing the trance. Next, Lane 3. The girl bowed slightly and left quietly, blending into the shadows. The next few people went by in a blur. None of the other contestants were allowed to use their whole 30 seconds. Stop. Next. Stop. Next. Next. Lane 9. Vaughn didn't need to be told twice. He stepped forward, and with his title equipped, he felt the familiarity of the stage settle over him. He immediately began plucking the strings of his guitar with elegance. The only time I sat and waited for the sunrise was when I saw the fear of leaving in your brown eyes. Seeing that the man wasn't interrupting him, Vaughn continued to the next verse. Resonance active. The effect was subtle but immediate. He could see it in the judge's expression. The tiredness in the man's eyes seemed to fade slightly, replaced by focus. The other contestants in the waiting area stopped fidgeting and looked at him. That gave Vaughn more confidence. This is just separation, babe. It's all fine. Making quiet calculations on the long drive. Vaughn closed his eyes, leaning into the melody. Stop. The judge snapped out of it, realizing he had let Vaughn play for nearly 45 seconds. He smacked his forehead lightly, annoyed at himself for getting distracted. He wrote something down quickly. Next. Vaughn bowed with a proud smile. He slung his guitar over his shoulder and walked out of the lane. Nailed it, he whispered to himself as he exited the room. Now all I gotta do is wait for the email and see if I make it to the second audition rounds. Chapter 10, Callback. University of Miami. Psychology Lecture Hall, February 5th. Positive reinforcement strengthens a behavior by providing a consequence an individual finds rewarding. For example, if you give a rat food every time it presses a lever, it learns to press the lever. But what happens if you don't give the food every time? What if you only give it randomly? That, ladies and gentlemen, is called a variable ratio schedule. It is the most addictive form of conditioning. It is why people pull slot machine livers for hours. It is the psychology of gambling. Vaughn sat in the very last row of the tiered seating. He wasn't paying attention to the class. His entire world was currently focused on the phone resting on his thighs. He kept swiping down to refresh his emails continuously, and eventually he let out a tired breath. Initially, Vaughn wasn't worried about passing the preliminary auditions, as he believed he had crushed the performance. But the protocol was to receive an email within 48 hours, and it was long past that, but he hadn't gotten any. A cold reality check was setting in on Vaughn. There were thousands of people auditioning, and they were likely filtering all those people to just 100 for the next stage. What if he wasn't among them? The chance of failure was there, and it felt more real with every passing minute. Vaughn couldn't believe he was feeling this nervous. He was usually confident by default, yet here he was sweating over this issue. He reloaded his inbox one last time and still nothing. I should stop, Vaughn told himself. Maybe if I act like I don't care, it will come faster. He forced his head up, trying to act nonchalant, drowning out his anxiety with academic theory. The subject will continue to perform the action. The professor continued on, oblivious to Vaughn's internal crisis. Hoping for the positive reinforcement. Because they don't know when the reward is coming, they remain in a state of high alert. As Vaughn listened, he realized that the professor's words were describing his exact situation. He was the rat, the email was the food, and the uncertainty was driving him insane. It felt uncanny. Is the universe mocking me? Vaughn thought dryly. Despite the irony, the lecture was actually distracting him. He found himself absorbing the information how the brain could be tricked, how habits were formed. It made him realize that it was actually useful stuff for someone who planned to manipulate audiences for a living. He had Zach to thank for being here at all. This morning, Vaughn had tried to pull the covers over his head and sulk, but his roommate wasn't having it. Midterms are next week, Vaughn. Zach had lectured while throwing a pillow at his face. Even if you do make it to Hollywood, you can't let your tuition fees go to waste. A degree is a safety net. If the music industry chews you up and spits you out, you'll need something to fall back on. So, here he was, learning about rats. Ping. The soft chime was barely audible over the professor's voice, but to Vaughn, it sounded like a cannon blast. A notification lit up his screen. One new email. Sender, Project Starcasting. Subject, Callback Invitation, Miami Region. Vaughn's breath hitched and his heart rate spiked instantly. Dear Mr. Varley, we are pleased to inform you that you have advanced to the televised judges round. Please report with your instrument, if any, to the Miami Convention Center Ballroom A on Saturday, February 9th at 8 a.m. prompt. Congratulations. A grin stretched across Vaughn's face. Yes, he whispered under his breath, clenching his fist under the desk. Suddenly, the boring lecture hall looked brighter. The professor's monotone voice sounded like a symphony. Vaughn felt a surge of energy so potent he actually sat up straight and started taking notes. He devoted maximum attention to the rest of the class, not because he cared about psychology, but because he was in such a good mood that he felt invincible. Vaughn wasted no time. He used the next 4 days routinely. He would wake up very early and power through a routine workout, after which he would attend his classes before rushing back to the dorms. He dedicated his evenings and nights entirely to practice. Sometimes he busked, other times he practiced alone in the room, or with Zach's help whenever his roommate was available. Vaughn also used that time to understand his new skills and better practice them. He didn't know if emote had any limits, but he spent hours in front of the mirror, testing his adaptability. He learned to portray various emotions on command: joy, heartbreak, rage, internalizing them until they felt real. At one point during a late-night session, Vaughn decided to test the upper limits of the skill. He activated emote and focused on the concept of loss. He sang a few lines of a ballad, and tears began to stream down his face. It wasn't just acting. His entire aura shifted to one of devastation that even he himself believed he'd lost someone. Even Zach, who was usually less susceptible to such things and prided himself on logic, stopped typing on his laptop. He stared at Vaughn with genuine pity, asking if he was okay. "I'm fine," Vaughn had grinned, wiping the tears away instantly. It worked terrifyingly well. The days passed quickly. And then, Saturday arrived. It was the time. Miami Convention Center, 8 a.m. The chaos of the cattle call was gone. Today there were no lines wrapping around the block. There were no banana suits, no gothic maids, and no screaming weirdos trying to get on the blooper reel. This was the elite round. Vaughn sat in Ballroom A, a massive holding area that had been converted into a waiting room. The room was fitted with exactly 100 chairs arranged in neat rows. It was almost full. Vaughn scanned the room. The people here looked different. They were attractive, polished, and intensely focused. Some were vocalizing quietly in corners, others were checking their reflections in compact mirrors. The minority of empty seats belonged to the unlucky ones. People who probably didn't check their emails in time or had a conflict they couldn't resolve. Vaughn was seated in the second row. Like many of the others, he had arrived quite early to the venue. They had been ushered to their seats after a rigorous ID check and left to themselves with no directives. The silence in the room was now heavy as everyone was sizing each other up. At exactly 8 a.m., the double doors at the front of the room swung open. A dark-skinned man dressed in a sharp midnight blue tuxedo walked in. He held a sleek black file in his hands and moved with the kind of effortless charisma that only TV stars possessed. Everyone recognized him immediately. It was Michael Ray. He was legendary in the industry, a former VJ who had transitioned into the country's top celebrity interviewer and reality TV host. His smile was insured for millions, and right now he was beaming at them. "What's up, stars?" Michael called out, his voice projecting clearly without a microphone. "You're all looking way too serious for people who just beat out 5,000 applicants." A few nervous chuckles broke the tension. "You probably know me already," he continued, walking to the center of the makeshift stage. "But for the cameras, I'm Michael Ray, and I'm the guy who's going to be holding your hand, or handing you a tissue," he added with a wink. He paused, looking over the crowd with a warm, professional gaze. "First off, congratulations. Seriously. Look around you. You are the top 2% of talent in Miami. Getting into this room is a victory in itself." He waited for the applause to die down before his expression turned slightly more businesslike. "But the celebration ends now. The judge will be arriving in less than 30 minutes, and as soon as that happens, the real game begins." A murmur of excitement mixed with terror swept through the room at the thought of which celebrities would be chosen. "This is the showcase round," Michael explained. "The rules are simple. You will be called in one by one. You have exactly 5 minutes. In that time, you need to introduce yourself, answer their questions, and perform a song. If they like you, you get a golden ticket to Hollywood. If they don't, you go home." He looked around, making eye contact with the front row. "You all following?" Heads nodded vigorously. "Good," Michael smiled. "Other staff will be coming around shortly to answer specific questions and go over the legal waivers. So, good luck in advance. I'll be hoping to see every single one of you in Hollywood." He gave a sharp two-finger salute and turned on his heel, exiting as smoothly as he had entered. Vaughn let out a breath. Like many of the contestants, he knew Michael's well wishes were just for show. They couldn't all pass. The rumors said they were only taking 50 people from Miami. That meant half the people in this room were going home devastated today. Vaughn looked down at the number card pinned to his denim jacket. Next Brox Frox Prox Frox Prox 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 28. He was in the first third of the group. He wouldn't have to wait all day, but he had enough time to let the nerves build up. "It's fine," Vaughn whispered to himself, gripping the neck of his guitar case. "I'm ready." The side doors opened again, and a team of production staff with clipboards swarmed into the room to begin the final prep. Chapter 11. Golden Ticket. Just as Michael had promised, the production staff immediately began attending to the contestants, distributing waivers and running through the strict protocols for the televised round. The staff informed them about camera etiquette, where to stand, where to look, and most importantly, who would be judging them. The names dropped like bombs in the quiet room. First was Aria Diana, the 11-time Grammy-winning pop queen known for her vocal range. Then came Jax Ryder, the legendary lead singer of the 90s rock band Crimson Haze. And finally, Rex Sterling, the one and only CEO of Cloudery Records. A ripple of nervous energy shot through the room. It was clear that Project Star wasn't holding back for their comeback season. The fact that the CEO himself was sitting on the panel meant the stakes weren't just high, they were astronomical. Time passed, and eventually the judges arrived. The auditions commenced. The double doors swallowed contestants one by one. Number 1 went in. Minutes later, number 2 followed. The room grew steadily emptier, the silence deepening with each departure. Since there was a separate exit for finished contestants, nobody returned to share their fate. It was a black box. You walked in, and you either vanished or ascended. Number 28, a staff member finally called out, checking his clipboard. Vaughn Varley. Vaughn took a deep breath, grabbed the neck of his guitar case, and stood up. He walked toward the double doors, leaving the dwindling group of hopefuls behind. The audition room was cavernous, the ceiling lost in shadows. The only illumination came from a battery of harsh stage lights focused on a single piece of tape in the center of the floor. Vaughn walked toward the light, his footsteps echoing on the polished wood. As his eyes adjusted to the glare, the 3 figures behind the long desk came into focus. To the right sat Aria Diana. She was radiant, even more gorgeous in person, wearing a sleek white blazer. To the left was Jax Ryder, leaning back with the effortless cool of a rock star, his dark skin covered in different tattoos. They were both beaming with contagious, professional smiles. But the man in the center was different. Dressed in a sharp midnight blue suit, he had a jawline that could cut glass and eyes that looked bored with the world. "You." Rex Sterling practically jumped in his seat, his finger stabbing the air in Vaughn's direction. His mask of icy indifference shattered instantly, shocking the other 2 judges. What are the chances, Vaughn thought with a wry smile as he locked eyes with the devil himself. Who would have guessed that the rich guy who paid him $100 to stop singing on the street was the CEO of a massive record label and was now one of the 3 people deciding his future? Aria blinked, turning to her colleague. "What's up, Rex? It seems like you have some history with our contestant. Mind telling us?" Rex slowly sank back into his chair, smoothing his tie. He regained his composure and his eyes narrowed into slits. "I don't know how he made it past the producers." Rex scoffed with disdain. "But the kid is a terrible singer. I'm even being kind by using the word singer." "Eesh." Jax winced, trying to hold back a laugh. "That's a harsh one. But I guess we still have to find out." Jax turned his dark sunglasses toward the stage. "Number 28, introduce yourself," he sang in a deep, melodic bass voice. Vaughn cleared his throat, leaning into the microphone stand. My name is Vaughn Varley. I'm an 18-year-old psychology student at the University of Miami." He knew they had all this data in front of them, but the camera crew needed the content. "Interesting," Aria said with a bright smile, leaning her chin on her hand. "So I guess you have some psychology tricks up there?" She added a playful wink. "Planning to analyze us?" Vaughn let out a small, self-deprecating laugh. "I swear, I wish I did." Jax laughed. "You wish, huh? So you could control us all to give you the golden ticket?" "Maybe," Vaughn replied with a shrug. "All right, Vaughn," Jax grinned. "I like the honesty. But we'd like to know more about you. What made you choose Project Star?" This was the moment, the sob story segment. The producers loved this part. They wanted to hear about dead pets, sick relatives, or life on the streets. But Vaughn wasn't interested in playing the victim. Honestly, Vaughn said, adjusting his guitar strap, I've always wanted to be on this show since I watched the first season. I was sitting in a cafe with my sister when I saw the audition announcement. She told me I was a great singer and that I should go for it. He looked up, his violet eyes shining with simple ambition. I figured this might be my one shot at becoming a star. So, here I am. Rex, who had been silent, raised an eyebrow. So you're here because your sister told you that you can sing. Vaughn smiled proudly. Precisely. Rex let out a short, dismissive breath, but Arya interrupted before he could cut Vaughn down. All right, Vaughn, Arya said kindly. This is your moment. Let's see what you got. Vaughn nodded. He checked his tuning one last time. So, I'm gonna be singing a song I wrote. It's called You're Gonna Come Home. Ooh, the judges exchanged a look. Originals were a massive gamble. Almost all the contestants preferred to play it safe with an already perfect song, and it was the smartest choice. Hearing an original in the audition room was rare. They hadn't seen one all day. Okay, Vaughn. Arya nodded, looking intrigued. Impress us. Vaughn took a deep breath. 1, 2, 3. He positioned his hand and began to pluck a soft, melancholic melody. The only time I sat and waited for the sunrise was when I saw the fear of leaving in your brown eyes. This is just a separation, babe. It's all fine. Making quiet calculations on the long drive. This is good land, or at least it was. It takes a strong man and a sound mind. Vaughn's upgraded vocals hit the notes beautifully. It wasn't anything exceptional, but it was stable. And it was pleasant to listen to. The city lights are getting so bright, ain't they? They're hidden all the stars and the gray paint. And I even gave up sleeping after nightfall. I got tired of the shadows on the white wall. This is good land, or at least it was. It takes a strong man and a sound mind. Vaughn closed his eyes, immersing himself in the lyrics. He had activated emote to project a profound sense of longing and loss into the room. In his peripheral vision, he could see a soft white glow around the judges. Resonance was working. They were entranced. It makes me sad to know when things get bad. Ooh, you'll be gone. Ooh, you'll be gone from here. And while I fix the fence in the yard, ooh, you'll be gone. Ooh, you'll be gone, gone from here. He hit the body of the guitar with his palm, turning it into a drum as he increased the intensity of his strumming. The song swelled from a ballad into an anthem. So, turn round your car, put a hand on your heart. Remember how we felt. Remember who you are. We ain't angry at you, love. You're the greatest thing we've lost. The bells will still ring. The folks will still fight. The stairs will still creak. The days will turn night. We ain't angry at you, love. I'll be waiting for you, love. And I will wait for you forever. We'll all wait for you forever. You're gonna come home. You're gonna come home. If you wanna come home, then you gotta come home. Vaughn let the final chord ring out until it faded into total silence. For a moment, room was silent. Then Arya let out a breath. Wow, she whispered. She looked at Vaughn with wide eyes. Did you really write that song? Vaughn nodded, breathless. Yes, ma'am. It's so good, Arya said, shaking her head in disbelief. I can literally feel the emotions radiating off you. You did a very great job, although your vocals could need some work. You were straining a bit on the bridge, and your breath control needs tightening, but the storytelling, that was magic. She smiled. I'm giving you a yes. Thank you. Jack's rider slammed his hand on the table. Arya said it all, kid. Your song was superb. It's got that grit I've been looking for. Great work, kid. It's a yes from me. 2 yeses. Vaughn felt his knees go weak, but he still needed 3 to be safe. He turned his eyes to the last judge. Rex had a serious look as he eyed Vaughn with an unreadable expression. Were you trolling me that day we met? Rex asked flatly. Surely this can't be the same guy. Vaughn only laughed, choosing to say nothing. Rex drummed his fingers on the table. The silence stretched out. Finally, Rex sighed. I'll give you a yes, Rex admitted. But don't be too comfortable. If you want to stand a chance of getting far, you'd need far more than this." Vaughn didn't hear anything. He only heard the yes. He had made it. "Congratulations." Arya beamed, holding up a shimmering rectangular golden card. "See you in Hollywood." "Thank you," Vaughn said again. He walked to the table, accepted the golden ticket with a light bow, and turned toward the backstage exit. Chapter 12: Shopping. Immediately upon walking backstage, a wave of light hit Vaughn so hard he had to shield his eyes. Opening them, he saw Michael Ray step out from behind a partition, with a cameraman trailing closely behind him. The host was grinning like a shark who smelled blood, or in this case, good TV. "Look at that face," Michael shouted, shoving a microphone toward Vaughn. "The camera doesn't lie. Is that what I think it is?" Vaughn blinked, snapping into performance mode. He held up the shimmering gold card, letting the hallway lights catch the foil print. "Yeah, I got it," Vaughn said coolly. "I'm going to Hollywood." "Woohoo!" Michael pumped his fists into the air, celebrating like he was the one who had just won the lottery. "It was a spectacular audition from you back there. And despite your initial tension with Rex Sterling, you still managed to earn a yes from him. Tell us about it. Did he make you nervous?" Vaughn responded instantly with a laugh. "Nervous? Hell, nah. I think he did try to eat me alive with his eyes, but I gave him indigestion." He smirked as he added. Michael laughed, delighted. "Such confidence. I love you already. So now you've made it this far. Do you have anyone that you owe gratitude to?" Vaughn nodded, and his expression softened. "First and foremost, I'd like to thank myself for being brave enough to come here and giving my best, and I'll also like to thank my roommate, Zach. He might be a bit of a control freak, but he helped me a lot." He paused, looking directly into the lens, and last but not least, "The greatest thanks goes to my sis. I wouldn't be here without her." He smiled. "Thank you, Nana." "Shout out to Nana," Michael yelled into the mic. "So before you leave, any promise to the viewers?" Vaughn went into thought for a split second before answering. "All I have to say is, I'm ready to go all the way." Michael turned to the camera. "All right, folks, you heard him. Watch out for Vaughn Varley. We'll see you in Los Angeles." "Thank you," Vaughn replied as the camera light dimmed. He shook hands with Michael, where the host told him congratulations once more before rushing off to prep for the next exit. Varley. A woman with a clipboard and a headset waved him over to a folding table set up near the exit. She looked exhausted, pushing a strand of hair out of her face. This was Sarah, one of the senior producers. "Congratulations," she said quickly, handing him a heavy red folder. "Inside this are your flight itineraries, hotel brochures, and a contract that you need to sign." She tapped the folder with a pen. "We've booked you on a flight to depart for Los Angeles on February 24th. That's in about 2 weeks." Vaughn absorbed the information, clutching the folder. "Pack for a month-long stay at least," Sarah continued. "Once you land, the production team covers your hotel and basic feeding. Be at the airport at 6 a.m. sharp. Don't be late, or we fly without you." Vaughn nodded, his mind already racing through a checklist. "Okay, I'll be ready." Lincoln Road Mall, February 22nd. "Why did you decide to follow me to the mall again?" Vaughn asked, adjusting his sunglasses as he stepped out of the Uber. Zach stepped out behind him, looking entirely out of place amidst the palm trees and high-end fashion tourists. He was dressed in his usual library chic, a faded gray hoodie, cargo pants, and worn-out sneakers. He rolled his eyes at Vaughn. "Nothing," Zach deadpanned. "I just decided to abandon the 3 textbooks I plan to read today to personally escort you to the mall. I am simply a benevolent servant." "Michu," Vaughn hissed, suppressing a smile. "Be serious." Zach sighed, shoving his hands into his pockets. "I also wanted to buy some stuff. There's a new release from Patrick Anderson, and the bookstore here is doing a signed copy event. I can't miss it. And I might buy some non-perishable food stuff while I'm at it. Since you'll be traveling, I might as well start cooking now." Vaughn hummed. "How interesting. You're already planning your life without me." "It will be a peaceful life," Zach retorted, though there was no heat in it. They walked past the outdoor cafes and fountains until they reached the intersection where the large bookstore stood opposite a massive department store. "All right," Zach said, pointing toward the books. "My destiny lies that way. Good luck with your transformation." "We'll meet at the food court when we're done," Vaughn said. "Don't spend all your money in one place, Rockstar," Zach called out over his shoulder before disappearing into the crowd. Vaughn took a deep breath and turned toward the clothing store. His flight was in just 2 days, and looking at his closet that morning, he had realized a painful truth. He had nothing to wear. His old clothes were either threadbare or, thanks to his recent physical changes, awkwardly tight around the shoulders and chest. He had saved up $900 from his recent busking sessions and selling those electronics. His plan now was to spend at most $600. It was a large sum for a student, but considering he was about to be on national television, it was an investment. He needed to look like he belonged in Hollywood. Vaughn entered the store, the blast of cool air conditioning hitting him. He bypassed the luxury section, since he wasn't crazy, and headed for the mid-range streetwear. He moved methodically. He wasn't looking for flash. He was looking for versatility. He picked out a distressed denim jacket that fit his new frame perfectly, accentuating his broader shoulders. He grabbed 2 pairs of black slim-fit jeans, 3 plain-fitted t-shirts in white, charcoal, and maroon, and a pair of sleek black sneakers for $50 that looked expensive but were surprisingly comfortable. His biggest expense was a sturdy, leather-trimmed travel bag that cost $110. It was practical, but it looked professional. As Vaughn was carrying his pile of clothes toward the fitting rooms, movement near the accessories aisle caught his eye. Through the glass display of the high-end watch section, he saw someone familiar. It was a boy about his age, maybe a year older. He was striking, light-skinned with a mop of perfectly defined, coily caramel-colored hair. He was wearing a linen shirt that probably cost more than Vaughn's entire tuition, but he wore it casually with its sleeves rolled up. Vaughn recognized him immediately. He was number 27, the guy who had gone in right before him. Vaughn still remembered what he saw that day. Name: unknown. Vocals: B. Skill: harmonic charisma. Description: a vocalist born with a golden charm. His presence naturally draws admiration from those around him. Aside from the blue-haired girl he had seen in the preliminary auditions, this guy was the only other person in the entire audition process with stats this monstrous. Vaughn smiled wryly as he watched Julian inspect a pair of sunglasses. I bet he qualified easily. Now he's doing his LA prep shopping too. Small world. Suddenly, Julian turned his head, and their eyes met through the glass. Oh fuck, he saw me staring. Chapter 13, Julian West. Vaughn immediately tried to avert his gaze, pretending to be interested in a rack of belts. But it was too late. He saw Julian's face light up with recognition. The boy said something to the sales clerk, grabbed his bags, and walked straight out of the high-end section toward Vaughn. "What's good, man?" Julian called out, his voice smooth and friendly. Vaughn turned, feigning mild surprise. He adjusted his grip on his pile of clothes. "Hey, you. What a surprise to see you here." Julian stopped in front of him, grinning. He outstretched a hand. "Nice to meet you properly. I'm Julian. Von." Vaughn shook the hand. It was a firm, confident handshake. Julian looked at the pile of clothes in Vaughn's arms and then back at his face. "You doing the LA Hall? You must have qualified?" Vaughn nodded. "Yeah, I did." "You too?" "Yes, I did." Julian let out a breath, looking genuinely relieved. "Glory be to Jesus. I was sweating bullets in there." "Right?" Vaughn said, a bit thrown off with his humility. "Well, congrats," Vaughn said as he turned to head toward the register. "I should probably pay for this stuff before my arms fall off." "I'll tag along," Julian said cheerfully, falling into step beside him. "So, how does it feel, making it through?" "Feels great," Vaughn said, placing his items on the counter one by one. "A bit surreal, but great." "Tell me about it," Julian laughed. He leaned against the counter looking at the ceiling. "I was a wreck." Honestly, I didn't really have a choice not to make it. My family, let's just say the pressure is on to go all the way and win. If I had flopped in the auditions, I don't think I could have gone home. Vaughn paused, looking at him. Julian's smile was still there, but it didn't reach his eyes. There was a genuine anxiety behind the designer clothes. "What about you?" Julian asked, turning back to Vaughn. "Are you nervous?" Vaughn thought about the question. He thought about his empty bank account, about Nana, about his dream to become a star, and this being his second chance. The pressure was immense, but it was a different kind of pressure. It was survival, not expectation. He shook his head. "Not really." Julian blinked. "Seriously? How?" "Because," Vaughn said, picking up the denim jacket, "if you spend all your time worrying about what the judges think or what your family thinks, you forget to sing. You just have to do it for yourself first. If you enjoy it, they'll enjoy it." Julian stared at him for a second, processing the words. Then, his shoulders visibly relaxed. "Do it for yourself?" Julian murmured. He looked at Vaughn with new respect. "Thanks, man. That's actually really solid advice. I needed to hear that." They chatted for a few more minutes while the cashier scanned the items. Vaughn found out that Julian wasn't actually based in Miami. He was a student at the Frost School of Music, but his family lived in Los Angeles. "All right. That will be everything?" the cashier asked, popping her gum. "Yes, please," Vaughn said. The cashier hit a button. The total flashed on the screen in bright red numbers. $894.50. Vaughn froze. Fuck. He stared at the number. He had mentally calculated around $600, maybe $650 tops. $894. That was nearly everything he had. If he paid this, he'd be landing in LA with zero cash for emergencies, food, or transport. The line behind them was starting to grow. Vaughn felt the heat rise up his neck. Vaughn cleared his throat. "Okay, I think I need to put a few things back." He reached for the some shirts and one of the pairs of jeans. "I'll leave these." "Why are you returning them?" Julian asked, frowning. "They looked good. Don't you want them?" Vaughn hesitated. He could lie, say he changed his mind. But he was too tired for games. "I do," Vaughn said bluntly, "but it's past my budget, so out they go." He pushed them toward the cashier. "Wait," Julian said. Julian reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek, matte black card with gold lettering. He slid it onto the counter, right over Vaughn's hand. "Use this," Julian told the cashier. The cashier picked up the card, and her eyes widened. She looked from the card to Julian, and her posture straightened immediately. "Mr. West," she stammered, abandoning her gum chewing. I didn't realize. Sorry for the wait." "It's fine," Julian said with a breezy smile. "He's with me. Put it under the family and friends discount." The cashier nodded vigorously. She tapped a few keys and screen flickered. Minus 50% discount applied. The new total flashed, $447. Vaughn stared at the screen, then at Julian. "A 50% discount? Who is this guy?" "Wow, I'm very grateful for this," Vaughn said quietly, not daring to refuse. "Consider it payment for the therapy session." Julian grinned. "Besides, my dad owns a stake in the parent company of this chain. If I don't use the points, they expire. You're actually doing me a favor." "A young master, huh?" Vaughn thought, shaking his head. He tapped his debit card against the reader. The transaction went through instantly. He was leaving with everything he wanted, and he was still nearly $200 under his original budget. "Thanks," Vaughn said earnestly once again as he grabbed the bags. "Really, that was huge." "What are friends for?" Julian said. He checked his diamond-encrusted watch. "Shoot, my driver is probably circling the block. I gotta run." He pulled out his phone. "Let me get your number, though. We should link up when we get to the hotel." Vaughn recited his number, and Julian sent a quick text so he'd have his. "See you in Hollywood, Vaughn," Julian said, giving him a quick fist bump before turning and striding out of the store, looking like he owned the place. which apparently he sort of did. Vaughn watched him go with a complicated expression on his face. Rich, handsome, talented, humble, and super kind as well. Vaughn muttered to himself, picking up his bags, "Kill me already." He smiled wryly, shook his head, and turned to walk toward the food court. He had to find Zach and tell him that he'd just made friends with a young master. Chapter 14. Leaving Miami. February 24th, Miami International Airport. Project Star wasn't taking any chances with logistics. The production team had booked out 50 seats on a commercial flight for all the Miami qualifiers, effectively turning a section of the aircraft into a chaotic field trip for aspiring superstars. They had been informed of the strict scheduled days in advance, so by 9 a.m. the terminal was buzzing with contestants. Vaughn stood near the drop-off curb, his new leather travel bag slung over one shoulder. He looked up at the massive glass facade of the terminal, feeling a strange flutter in his stomach. This would be the first time he would ever leave Miami, or even step foot on an aircraft. The concept of flying felt surreal to him, and it was a luxury he had only ever seen in movies or watched from the ground. "Well," Zach said, leaning against the passenger door of his beat-up sedan. He looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight and clearly hating the noise and the crowd. "This is it." "This is it," Vaughn repeated. He adjusted his sunglasses, hiding the slight wideness of his eyes as he took in the scene. "Try not to get eliminated in the first week," Zach deadpanned. "I already rented out your side of the room to a guy named Steve. He has a pet iguana." "You're a terrible liar, Zach." "Just don't do anything stupid," Zach muttered. He hesitated for a moment as the silence stretched out before he awkwardly punched Vaughn in the shoulder. "Go be a star, idiot." "Watch me," Vaughn grinned, returning the punch with equal weight. "I'll be watching," Zach said quietly. With a final wave, Vaughn turned his back on the curb and walked toward the check-in counters. As he moved through the automatic doors, a sudden wave of emotion hit him. Over these past few weeks, his relationship with Zach had shifted. He had been there when Vaughn was at his lowest, making him regret taking him for granted in his former life. He no longer felt like just a roommate, or even just a friend. He felt like the brother Vaughn never had. Vaughn swallowed the lump in his throat and focused on the mission ahead. He navigated security and found his gate. Boarding was a blur of scanning passes and shuffling down the narrow aisle. "Sir, please put your phone in airplane mode and fasten your seatbelt," a flight attendant said with a smile as she walked past his row. "Right. Got it," Vaughn said. His internal monologue about his future was cut short as the engines roared to life. He quickly followed the procedure, his hands gripping the armrests tightly as the plane began to taxi. The flight from Miami to Los Angeles took nearly 6 hours. Vaughn had hoped to sit next to another contestant to maybe gauge the competition or make an alliance. But luck wasn't on his side. He was wedged between an elderly woman knitting a scarf and a businessman who fell asleep before the wheels even left the tarmac. It was mostly boring. Vaughn spent the time staring out the window at the clouds, listening to music, and mentally reviewing the lyrics to every song in his repertoire. He dozed off somewhere over Texas and woke up just as the captain announced their descent into LAX. When they landed, the production team was waiting. They were herded like cattle onto chartered buses and shuttled through the gridlocked LA traffic to a massive hotel in downtown Los Angeles. However, they didn't check in immediately. Instead, the staff directed them into a large banquet hall on the ground floor. "Please wait here. Do not wander off," a producer shouted over the din. Vaughn found a seat near the back. The room filled up progressively, the noise level rising as contestants from other cities arrived. It was a mix of warm-ups, nervous laughter, and aggressive networking. After about 15 minutes, the doors were closed and the room was packed. A woman in a sharp navy suit walked onto the small stage at the front of the room. She tapped the microphone, and the feedback screech silenced the crowd instantly. "Welcome to Los Angeles," she said, her voice professional but welcoming, "and congratulations to each and every one of you for making it this far." A ripple of applause went through the room. "I know you must all be exhausted from your flights," she continued, raising a hand to settle them down. "We will keep this brief. We just need to take a few minutes to confirm your registration and sign the final housing agreements. After that, you will be given your keys and allowed to go to your rooms to rest." She paused, scanning the room. "Regarding housing, for this stage of the competition, you have the freedom to choose your own roommate. Each room must consist of 2 persons of the same gender. Once you have found a partner, approach the registration desk together." The room immediately erupted into chaos as people scrambled to find friends they had met at auditions or people who looked normal enough to live with. Vaughn stood up, scanning the crowd. He was about to approach a random guy standing near the water cooler when he felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned around to see a familiar face, a head of coily caramel hair and a charming, relieved smile. "Hey you, Julian," Vaughn said, surprised. Julian smiled, adjusting his designer backpack. "Yep, it's me. I've been looking for you for a while. I could swear I didn't see you at the airport in Miami," Vaughn said, raising an eyebrow. "Let me guess. You flew private?" Julian looked a bit embarrassed to admit it, scratching the back of his neck. "Yeah, I did. My dad insisted. Anyway, you got a partner yet? Want to be roommates?" Vaughn didn't see any negatives in the suggestion. Julian was clean, polite, and undeniably one of the top dogs in this competition. Being close to him helped a lot on the long run. "Sure, why not?" Vaughn nodded. "Let's go get a key before the line gets too long." They made their way to the front, signed the papers, and were handed 2 plastic key cards. "Room 452, the registrar said. 3rd floor." They took the elevator up and navigated the hallway until they found the door. Vaughn swiped the card, and the light turned green. The room was standard. It had 2 normal-sized beds with white linens, a single wooden reading table with 1 chair, a flat-screen TV mounted on the wall, and a small ensuite bathroom. It was clean and functional, but it certainly wasn't the Ritz. Julian walked in, dropped his expensive bag on the bed, and looked around with wide eyes. "Wow," Julian said, bouncing slightly on the mattress. "I love it. It's so cozy." Vaughn closed the door, locking it behind them. He raised an eyebrow at Julian's enthusiasm. "Better than the room in your mansion?" Julian's smile faltered slightly, his voice dropping to a softer, more earnest tone. "It's simple. That's why I like it. Just normal." Vaughn watched him for a second, realizing the guy wasn't being sarcastic. He actually craved normalcy. Vaughn chuckled, patting Julian on the shoulder as he walked past him. "Well, enjoy it while it lasts, bruh. 'Cause we'll be moving to the Star Mansion when we pass Hollywood Week." The format of the show was common knowledge. The top 24 survivors of this week would move into a luxury villa in the Hollywood Hills, where they would live together while filming the live shows, complete with 24/7 streaming cameras and drama. Julian sat on the edge of the bed with a distant look in his eyes. "Hopefully we make it," he whispered, clasping his hands together. "God willing." His humble words made Vaughn smile wryly. Their stats were like day and night, yet he was the less worried one. But Vaughn still wasn't nervous. He knew the mechanics of the world. The show meant cameras. Cameras meant fans. And fans equaled EXP. That was the stage he was waiting for. "Yeah, let's hope," Vaughn said, waving a hand dismissively as he grabbed a towel from his bag. "I'm gonna take a shower first." They had to be downstairs in 2 hours, so he decided not to waste time. Chapter 15, New Format. The Grand Banquet Hall, Westin Bonaventure, 6:30 p.m. By the time Vaughn and Julian made their way downstairs, the banquet hall was already swarming. Contestants were huddled in circles, chattering loudly as they sized each other up. Networking had already begun, Vaughn having no interest in small talk so he had his ears covered with music as he took a seat next to Julian. Julian, on the other hand, was in his element. He was already deep in an animated conversation with a group of contestants from New York, laughing at their jokes and making friends with ease. Suddenly, the lights in the hall dimmed. Vaughn slid his headphones down around his neck just as the double doors swung open. A familiar figure strode in, flanked by a camera crew that moved backward in perfect sync with his steps. It was Michael Ray. The host looked even sharper than he had in Miami, dressed in a fitted maroon suit that popped under the ballroom lights. He walked to the small stage with the swagger of a man who owned the room, which for all intents and purposes he did. The chatter died instantly as 200 pairs of eyes locked onto him. Wow, Michael's voice boomed as he scanned the crowd with a blinding smile. Look at you all. You're looking absolutely splendid. I'm honestly jealous. If I stood next to some of you, I'd look like the waiter. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the room. Michael let the laughter settle before his expression shifted to something more serious. Well, he began pacing the stage. As you all know, your stay in this hotel won't be long. In fact, it might not even last a week. Only 24 of you will be moving on to the Star Mansion. He paused for effect. So there is no time to waste. The competition begins tomorrow morning. A collective groan of dismay swept through the hall. Most had just endured long flights in economy class, and they had expected at least one day to acclimate to the environment change. Michael ignored the grumbling. "Welcome to the industry," he said with a knowing smirk. "Fatigue is part of the job description." He gestured to cue massive screen behind him. "For this Hollywood week, we are doing things differently. You will face 3 rounds of challenges, so 3 chances to prove you belong here." The screen came to life, displaying a digital leaderboard. It looked like something out of a video game. Beside each of their names were 4 sections: Round 1, Round 2, Round 3, and total score. They were all tied at 0 points, so the standings were arranged alphabetically. You will score points based on your performance in each round, and you will be able to access your live standings from the monitors here in the lobby. At the end of the week, the top 24 scorers move into the mansion. The rest go home. Everyone held their breath. Most of them who followed Project Star knew that this points-based system was a brand new mechanic, and they hadn't seen something similar in other shows either. The camera operators moved in close, capturing the wide-eyed horror and determination on the contestants' faces. Michael clapped his hands once, snapping the attention back to him. "So," he said, walking over to a glass bowl sitting on a pedestal, "your first challenge that will decide your route." He reached into the bowl and retrieved a single plastic ball. He popped it open and unrolled a slip of paper. As he read it, a mischievous smile lit up his face. "Is called 30 Seconds to Stardom." The room remained silent. "Tomorrow morning you will be given exactly 30 seconds to sing for the judges," Michael announced. "Within that 30 seconds you must complete your performance. I don't mean just singing some verses and stopping midway. Even if you are singing a section of a song, it must sound like a complete piece of music." He held up a finger. "You are allowed to sing a cappella, or you can use an instrument to aid you. You can sing any song of your choice. That's all. Very simple." Simple? Vaughn looked around and saw panic setting in. It wasn't simple at all. 30 seconds was nothing. Most intros were longer than that. To condense a song, showcase your vocal range, and tell a story in half a minute required technical skill and arranging ability. And they had only one night to prepare. Pretty exciting, right? Michael grinned, clearly enjoying the tension. "I'm very curious to see what you all cook up. But before you run off to rehearse, we have one more thing." He checked his watch. "We will be conducting interviews tonight. Now, although it's optional, you all know what a great opportunity it is. This is your chance to introduce yourself to America before you even sing a note." He sighed dramatically. "Of course, we can't interview everyone. We only have so many cameras. But I have a list here. Some unique cases that have a direct invite to the interview room." He pulled a card from his pocket. "Vera Hawkins." Michael began reading names. Vaughn listened closely. Everyone noticed a pattern. Michael was picking about 5 people from each audition city. Julian West, Vaughn Varley. Michael finished the list and folded the card. "That's all. To those I've called, please meet the production team in Conference Room B immediately. That's where the interviews will be held." He looked out at the sea of disappointed faces. "For those who didn't hear their names, don't worry. You are allowed to line up by the door and wait. If we have time, we will slot you in. Just remember, once you miss your chance, it's over. We won't be here all night." He gave them a final wave. "Get some rest or get to work. Good luck. Michael walked off stage, and the room instantly erupted into chaos. People were leaving hurriedly, while others were discussing the theme. Vaughn stood there, rubbing his chin. Why was I picked? His first guess would have been talent, but the blue-haired girl wasn't among those called, and he even saw some contestants with D-grade vocals mentioned on the list. Maybe it was just random, Vaughn concluded. Whatever the reason, what mattered most was that this was going to be a very busy night. Of course, he would have it easier than most since he had a direct invite, but Vaughn still knew that everything was about to take a toll on him. Julian interrupted him with a tap on the shoulder after seeing most of the selected contestants were leaving. We'll be late. Chapter 16, 30 seconds. Despite making their way to the conference room immediately, Vaughn and Julian found themselves at the back of the queue. The production team moved slowly, setting up shots and tweaking lighting for every single candidate. They waited for nearly an hour. Julian went in first, spending some minutes inside before emerging with a tired but satisfied smile. He gave Vaughn a quick fist bump and headed back to the room to rest. Finally, a production assistant poked her head out. "Vaughn Varley, you're up." Vaughn stood, smoothed out his jacket, and entered. The room was smaller than he expected. It was dominated by a vinyl backdrop plastered with the Project Star logo and two softbox lights that made the room uncomfortably warm. A single stool sat in the center. Behind the camera sat a woman with tired eyes and a clipboard. It was Sarah, the same senior producer he had briefly encountered in Miami. "Comfortable?" Sarah asked as Vaughn took a seat on the stool. "Comfortable enough," Vaughn replied with a nod, squinting slightly against the glare. "All right, Vaughn," Sarah said, checking her notes without looking up. "Welcome to Hollywood. How does it feel to be here?" "It's surreal," Vaughn began answering immediately. "Everything is happening so quickly that it's hard to believe, but I'm loving it." Sarah smiled slightly, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Michael just announced the 30-second challenge. That's a curveball. What went through your mind when you heard that?" "Nothing, really," Vaughn replied with a shrug. "I mean, it might seem unfair to some, but it kind of makes sense. We didn't come here to feel comfortable, so I guess this is a wake-up call." Sarah nodded. "Do you have a song in mind? The clock is ticking, and your performance is just tomorrow." "Not yet," Vaughn replied curtly. "I have a few ideas, but nothing that feels right for 30 seconds, so I'll have to consider my options tonight." "Are you worried?" Sarah pressed. "You only have tonight." "No, I'm not worried," Vaughn replied calmly. Sarah nodded, though she didn't seem satisfied with the answer. "One last thing. It's chaotic out there. Have you had a chance to size up the competition? Or make any friends?" Vaughn thought about Julian. "Yeah, I met Julian West. He's a good guy, and about the competition, I'm just trying to focus on myself. If I start looking at everyone else, I'll lose focus. I'm just here to do my job." "And what's your job?" Sarah asked. "To make sure I'm still here next week," Vaughn said simply. "That's all," Sarah said. "Good stuff from you, Vaughn. You're articulate, that helps." "Thanks," Vaughn said as he stood up. He was the last person among the 20 selected VIPs, but when he stepped out into the hallway, he saw a line of nearly 100 other contestants still waiting, hoping for a walk-in slot. As Vaughn walked toward the exit, a staff member with a headset stepped into the hallway and clapped his hands. "All right, listen up. We will only be taking the next 20 people in line. The rest of you, go get some sleep or practice for tomorrow. Interviews are closed for the night." A collective groan rippled through the back of the line. People who had been waiting for over an hour threw their hands up in frustration, muttering curses as they dispersed. Vaughn sighed as he watched them go. It was harsh, but it was reality. Even worse, he knew that of the interviews filmed tonight, 80% of them would end up not making the cut. They were fighting for screen time that didn't even exist yet. He turned toward the elevators, tuning out the noise. He couldn't afford to care about them right now. His mind was focused on the blue translucent window that had just materialized in front of him. Quest, the Hollywood Gauntlet. Description: the week are called early. Survive the 3 rounds of Hollywood Week and secure your place in the next stage. Objective: finish top 1, 0/1. Finish top 3, 0/1. Finish top 10 0 over 1. Rewards. Objective 1, Zone State A, plus 1000 EXP. Objective 2, Zone State A plus 500 EXP. Objective 3, Zone State A. Failure penalty. Finishing outside the top 24 will result in loss of voice for 60 days. Accept, decline. Vaughn gulped when he saw the penalty. Losing his voice for 2 months? In this industry that would effectively end his career before it began. But he couldn't complain. He knew himself that making it past this stage was a requirement, not an option. He tapped accept without hesitation. The rewards were generous, too. The consumable was an item he desired so much to store in his wish list, and now the system was basically offering it. Even though Vaughn wasn't delusional enough to think the mission would be easy given the monsters competing, he believed he had a chance to earn something. This says it all, Vaughn muttered to himself as the elevator doors slid open. Now I don't have a choice but to qualify. Vaughn returned to the 3rd floor. He walked past the large banquet hall that had been designated as the practice room, but he didn't even slow down. Even through the double doors, the noise was unbearable. It was a mix of screeching violins, aggressive belt singing, and people arguing over piano usage. It was a chaotic mess where focus went to die. He made the right call coming back to the room. He swiped his key card and entered room 452. Julian was already hard at work. The kid was sitting at the small desk, an iPad propped up in front of him and a pair of high-end studio headphones over his ears. He was furiously tapping on the screen, scrolling through what looked like a massive digital catalog of sheet music. He was taking this seriously. Vaughn chose not to disturb him. He quietly grabbed his acoustic guitar, a notebook, and a pen, and climbed onto his bed to work. As Vaughn stared at the blank page, he considered his options for the performance. His first thought had been to simply rearrange "You're Gonna Come Home." It was safe. He knew it well, and it had emotional weight. But Vaughn quickly shook his head. Reusing material this early would look lazy. The judges wanted to see range. They wanted to see growth. If he played the same song again, he would be labeled as a one-trick pony. He needed something new, and he planned to sing another original. He still had future hits in his head. Playing an original song that was good always saw one earning bonus points, so it was the best bet. But even with his advantage, Vaughn didn't have every single song in his head, and even less were the ones that fit the criteria. He strained his memory, filtering through the charts of the future 6 years. Any song he was choosing had to fit a 30-second cut naturally and had to sound good on just an acoustic guitar. It will be even better if it was conveying a message. Vaughn scribbled a few titles down, then crossed them out. Too pop, too slow, too rap-heavy. After 5 minutes of deep thinking, staring at the stucco ceiling, it finally struck him. Eureka! Vaughn sat up and began scribbling. He finally had one in mind, and it was perfect. It was catchy, it was aggressive, and narratively, it was the perfect sequel to his audition song. It was exactly what he needed to bet it all. Chapter 17, First Round. February 25th, 2019, Westin Bonaventure Hotel. Vaughn, wake up or you're gonna miss the call time. Vaughn was ripped from the realm of sleep by a pair of hands shaking his shoulders violently. He groaned, swatting at the air as he peeled his eyelids open. His vision was blurry as he tried to see through the morning light coming from the open curtains. Above him stood Julian, who was dressed in a gray suit and had his hair styled to perfection. Vaughn rubbed his face. What the problem? The problem is that the first round started an hour ago, Julian exclaimed, checking his diamond-encrusted watch frantically. It's 9 a.m. already. 9? The word jolted Vaughn's brain like a shot of espresso. He sat up, grabbing his phone from the nightstand. The screen confirmed the betrayal. 9:03 a.m. Why didn't you wake me up earlier? Vaughn asked, swinging his legs out of bed. You slept very late, Julian said apologetically, stepping back to give him space. I heard you muttering lyrics until like 1 a.m. I figured you needed the rest. Besides, I checked the call sheet downstairs. We're at the very bottom of the order because of our surnames. so it won't be our turn until at least 1 p.m. Oh, Vaughn paused, processing the logic. He remembered seeing the list. With nearly 200 contestants, going alphabetically meant being a Varley was finally a blessing. Right. Vaughn nodded slowly, the panic subsiding. Thanks for waking me up, dude. No sweat. Julian smiled, though he was tapping his foot nervously. I'm gonna head down to the lobby to warm up. Don't take too long, okay? I won't. Julian slipped out of the room, leaving Vaughn in the silence. Most people in Vaughn's position would have spent the next 4 hours getting dressed up. Vaughn went to the gym. He had a daily quest to finish, and if there was one thing the system had taught him, it was that discipline beat motivation every time. For the next hour, Vaughn was the only person in the hotel gym. While other contestants were downstairs, he was on the treadmill. He lifted weights and did planks until he was exhausted. When he returned to the room at almost 11 a.m., drenched in sweat, he ran into Julian in the hallway, who had come back to grab a bottle of water. Julian stared at him, bewildered. Did you just work out? Yeah, Vaughn panted, wiping his forehead with a towel. We have to sing in 2 hours, Julian said, looking at him like he was insane. Doesn't heavy exercise constrict your vocal cords? It gets the blood flowing, Vaughn replied. I just felt like it. Julian could not question him further as they went their separate ways. After Vaughn consumed the stamina pill, the fatigue vanished instantly, replaced by a surge of energy. His lungs felt open and his mind was sharp, feeling stronger than he had when he woke up. After a quick shower and a light breakfast of fruit and oatmeal, Vaughn climbed onto his bed with his guitar and notebook. He spent the remaining time visualizing the performance. He went through the lyrics and composition one last time. It had taken him hours last night to remember the exact chord progression of the song from his future memory, specifically the acoustic arrangement that made it punchy. Status, Superstar System, Status Panel, Bio, Name, Vaughn Varley, Age, 18, Class, Student, Title, Street Performer, System Level 0, Stats, Vocals, C. Wells the 3300, Composition, F 0/10, Charm, C 0300, Willpower, C 9/0300. Progression, Skills, Basic Instrument Mastery, Resonance, Emote, EXP 0. Current fans, 56. Quests, 2 active. Star Shop, 6 vouchers. He had finally pushed his vocals to CF after dumping all his accumulated EXP from the daily quests into the stat. It wasn't a massive jump, but it was still the difference between amateur and competent. Looking around the hotel earlier, he had noticed most contestants were hovering around C or C+, with the elite few like Julian likely in the B range. Although they were some few at D+, a C- was still dangerous ground, and Vaughn was banking on it to be enough. He closed his eyes and waited. At 12:55 p.m., a staff knocked on their door. Vaughn Varley, you're up. Vaughn grabbed his guitar and took the elevator, after which he was redirected to a set of double doors and into a smaller converted conference hall. The setup was intimate, but intimidating. A small, elevated stage stood in the center, bathed in a spotlight. Facing the stage was a long desk where the 3 judges sat, Jax, Aria, and Rex Sterling. Behind them, a small group of production staff watched in silence. As Vaughn walked up the steps, the judges looked up from their notes. Jax and Aria looked polite but exhausted. They had been listening to singers for 4 hours after all, and even though they had some breaks, it was still a chore. But Rex Sterling stopped writing. He looked up, his eyes narrowing slightly as he took off his glasses. Well, Rex murmured, leaning into his microphone. If it isn't the Miami busker. Aria looked up in surprise. She squinted at Vaughn. Oh, you're the one who performed the original song at the auditions, right? The one about coming home? That's me, Vaughn said, adjusting the mic stand. Good afternoon, judges. Good afternoon, Vaughn. Aria smiled, leaning her chin on her hand. She seemed to wake up a bit. You made quite an impression last time. What do you have for us today? Another original? She gave him a daring wink. Vaughn met her gaze and nodded confidently. Yes, ma'am, I'll be performing another original piece. It's called Coming Home. The judges exchanged glances. Coming home? Jax repeated, raising an eyebrow. Is this a sequel? Something like that, Vaughn said. Interesting, Arya said. I loved your first one. I do hope I like this one as well. I'll do my best, Vaughn said. Jax checked the digital timer on the desk. All right, Vaughn. The rules are simple. You've got 30 seconds. Make us feel something. Jax tapped the red button. 00:33:3. The clock began to tick. Vaughn didn't waste a second. He strung the strings of the acoustic guitar and began singing calmly. Lately, I've been on the roam, looking for a place to call my own. But baby, I know who I am. No more running away. Yeah, I'm coming home. I am coming home. He played a more upbeat tone that fell as soon as it rose, giving the piece a deserved completion. Ping! The timer blared as soon as he finished. Vaughn stood in silence after performing as he looked at the judges. Jax was the first to react. He let out a low whistle. That was beautiful. That ending energy. Man, you woke me up. Arya was beaming. Yes, you're an amazing composer, Vaughn. Seriously, that hook is stuck in my head already. I don't think I've heard a catchier song all day. Thank you, Vaughn said, bowing his head slightly. Rex Sterling had been quiet. He was tapping his pen against his notepad, staring at Vaughn plainly. Finally, he spoke. You know how to sell a song, and you have an ear for what works. You're a talented one, boy. Good job. Vaughn felt a warm glow spread through his chest. Getting such a compliment from him was not what he expected. Now, Jack said, reaching for the digital keypad on his desk. Let's score him. The screens on the judges' table came to light as the scoreboard system came to life. The numbers flashed on the screen one by one. Chapter 18 Leaderboard Reveal. Jax and 9. Rex 7. Arya 6. Vaughn's smile diminished the moment he saw the display. He did not expect much from Rex, although the praise had given him a momentary boost of confidence. But what was truly surprising was that Arya, who claimed to love the song, gave him a 6, a lower score than Rex himself. There was silence in the room for a moment before Arya leaned forward. You can do better, Vaughn, she said gently. I believe you can. You're a great composer, truly. You have an ear for melody that some professionals lack. But right now, your voice isn't carrying the weight of your words. You really have to work on your vocal control if you want to survive here. Thank you. I'll work harder, Vaughn acknowledged, bowing politely to the panel. He turned and walked off the stage. As Vaughn passed through the lobby, he noticed the digital leaderboard was still dark. The staff had already informed them that the scores would be collated and revealed en masse, so he wasn't surprised. He kept his head down, ignoring the curious glances of other contestants, and returned to his room. Julian was still downstairs. Given the order, he was number 200, while Vaughn was number 198. Back in the room, Vaughn flopped onto his bed, staring at the ceiling. He couldn't help but replay the performance in his mind. A 22 out of 30 wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. He really hoped the judges were harsh on other contestants as well. If everyone else was scoring in the high 20s, completing his quest band, staying in the competition, was going to be difficult. Now he could only wait until the leaderboard was announced to see where he truly stood. The Grand Banquet Hall, Weston Bonaventure, 3:30 p.m. The hall was filled with nervous energy. All 200 contestants were gathered and seated in rows of plush chairs facing the massive stage. The chatter was low as they awaited Michael to make his appearance. Camera crews walked through the aisles like sharks, zooming in their lenses to capture the raw emotion of the moment. Vaughn sat near the back with a calm indifference. Beside him, Julian was leaning back in his chair, looking entirely too relaxed. He was currently engaged in a whispered, charming conversation with a blonde girl in a red dress seated to his left. Vaughn nudged Julian's arm, breaking his trance. Stop being a child and tell me your score. Julian flashed a sweet, apologetic smile to the girl before turning to Vaughn. No, I'm not telling you. We'll find out soon enough. Besides, you didn't even tell me yours. Vaughn rubbed his temples. I'll let you know when you tell me. Julian shook his head with a smirk and amusement. Still no. He immediately turned back to the girl in the red dress, picking up his conversation exactly where he left off. Tisk! Vaughn clicked his tongue in annoyance. He didn't know why, but Julian was slowly getting on his nerves. Maybe it was how he was always meeting people, especially girls. And they always approached him, which hadn't been the case for Vaughn. It made him wonder if Julian was just a playboy, or maybe he was just overthinking everything. Vaughn ignored his spiraling thoughts as the lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the center stage, and Michael stepped out, his trademark wide smile beaming under the stage lights. Welcome back, everyone. Michael's voice boomed through the speakers. First off, give yourselves a round of applause. The applause was polite but hesitant. No, really, Michael laughed. I've been talking to the producers and the judges, and they are unanimous. The first round went by beautifully. From what I heard, this might actually be the most talented set of contestants this show has ever witnessed. The bar has been set incredibly high today. A ripple of gratification went through the crowd, shoulders relaxing slightly. But the relief was short-lived. Everyone knew that a high bar just meant the competition would be worse. But Michael interrupted. We aren't here for compliments. You're here for results. Now, for the moment you've all waited for. Here is the leaderboard. He gestured grandly to the massive screen behind him. It came to life, and names began to populate the list rapidly, scrolling down until the entire board was filled. 1. Aura Nova, 30 PTS. 2. Celine Smith, 30 PTS. 3. Julian West, 30 PTS. 4. Gregory Williams, 29 PTS. 83. Sophie Taylor, 22 PTS. 84. Vaughn Varley, 22 PTS. Spark Prince, quote, Bill Connor Prince, 16 PTS. 84th. Vaughn couldn't help but scream inwardly. The fact that 83 people performed equal to or better than him was a harsh reality check, and looking at the top of the list, they were all perfect. Vaughn shot a look at Julian. The blonde boy just smiled modestly, annoying Vaughn more. Forget about the quest. I might not even make the top 24 if things don't change. Michael allowed them a moment to process their positions before raising a hand to quiet the room. As you can see, a lot of people did exceptional work today, Michael said, looking out at the sea of faces. So you might all want to step up your game. Remember, only the top 24 will be going to the Star Mansion after the third round. He let that sink in. Nearly 90% of the people in this room would be going home soon. But you don't need to be nervous yet, Michael reassured them with a wink. This is just one of the 3 rounds we'll be seeing you through. The scores are cumulative. And to shake things up, I'll be announcing our next theme. A hush fell over the hall. Michael walked over to a glass bowl sitting on a pedestal. He reached in, swirled his hand around theatrically, and pulled out a single plastic ball. He popped it open and unfolded the paper inside. What do we have here? Michael grinned, holding the paper up. Harmony and chaos. He looked back at the confused crowd. For round 2, you will be required to create a team of 4 contestants. Once you form your team, you will receive a specific song from the staff which you'll be required to perform before the judges. Murmurs broke out immediately. Group rounds were notorious for causing drama. But there's a fun twist, Michael interjected, his voice cutting through the noise. Any score you get from the judges will be the same for the whole team. The room went silent. Unless the judges explicitly single someone out for a save, the team rises and falls together, Michael explained cheerfully. Which means a bad performance by one member will cost everyone. So you have it. You'll be performing in 2 days, so pick your team wisely. Adios, mis amigos. Michael did a short bow and walked off the stage. Chapter 19, Best Team. February 25th, Westin Bonaventure Hotel. The moment Michael Ray disappeared backstage, the grand ballroom transformed into a marketplace. The leaderboard was there, but it wasn't enough to help the 200 contestants. There was nothing like a magical name tag floating over everyone's head, so they had no way to discover who was who on the rankings. Panic set in immediately. Contestants began scrambling, grabbing the arms of people they vaguely recognized from auditions. "Hey, what did you score? Are you a tenor or a baritone? Please tell me you got at least a 25. It was chaos. The smart ones knew that this round was about survival. A weak link could drag down even the best singer, so finding high-ranking teammates was priority number one. Vaughn stood his ground, ignoring the frantic energy around him. He had a plan. This was a team competition, and he already had one of the strongest players in the game on his side. He turned over his shoulder to grab Julian. "Hey man," Vaughn said, grabbing Julian's elbow and interrupting the conversation he was having. "I'm gonna go scout for 2 more people to complete our group, or do you have someone in mind?" Julian flinched slightly. He turned around, wearing a nervous, apologetic smile. He wasn't alone. He was surrounded by a trio of girls, the same blonde girl from earlier and 2 brunettes who looked like twins. Julian ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "Actually, Vaughn. They asked me to join their team already." Vaughn paused. He looked past Julian to the 3 girls. They were staring at him with a serious gaze. "We asked him long ago," the blonde girl said, crossing her arms. "I can explain," Julian said hastily, looking between Vaughn and the girls. "I haven't said yes yet, so maybe." "What do you mean, Julian?" the blonde girl interrupted sharply. She stepped forward, placing a possessive hand on Julian's arm. "You think you can abandon us for this loser? He didn't even make the top 50. He was number 84. Her words hung in the air like an insult. Vaughn's face darkened. He stared right into her eyes, his violet irises seemingly glowing from her perspective. The intensity was so sharp that she actually flinched back a step. But she recovered quickly, fueled by arrogance. She stepped forward again, chin raised. "Yes, I said it. And stop looking at me like that, you dimwit. If you can't accept the truth, then that's on you. Julian is tied number 1, and you're over 80 places below. We are a winning team. You are dead weight." "Celine, stop," Julian interjected, looking distressed. "That's enough. You don't have to be so harsh. Vaughn is talented, he just—" "Talent won't save you from elimination, Julian," Celine snapped, turning her back on Vaughn. Vaughn didn't say a word. It was pointless to defend himself. He simply looked at them one last time and walked away. "Vaughn," Julian called out weakly. But Celine was already pulling him into a huddle with the twins. "Phew, that was close," Vaughn muttered as he wove through the crowd. What happened back there didn't bother him in the slightest. He had dealt with worse assholes in his past life. Celine felt like a yapping chihuahua compared what he once was. Besides, he had already scanned her and discovered she had B vocals. She was good, likely the number 2 on the leaderboard, so he could understand why she was so arrogant. But Vaughn had something better. He quickened his pace, his eyes locked on the exit doors. He had spotted a flash of distinct blue hair leaving the hall just as the argument started. If he had stayed to argue with Celine, he would have missed her. He pushed through the doors into the quieter hallway and saw her walking toward the elevators. "Hey," Vaughn called out. The girl didn't stop. Vaughn jogged up behind her and tapped her on the shoulder. "Excuse me." She stopped and turned around slowly. Up close, she was even more striking. Blue eyes, light olive skin, and that impossible blue hair with purple streaks. "Hello?" she asked. "You might not know me, but we stood in line together in Miami. I was wondering if you've gotten a team yet." The girl blinked. Her guarded expression softened slightly. "Oh, I do know you, and no, I haven't found a team to join just yet." Vaughn was surprised by her relatively nice reply. He had expected an ice queen based on her demeanor. "Well," Vaughn said, offering a small smile, "if you don't mind, maybe we could team up?" "I don't mind," she replied instantly. "I'm in. Do you have other members?" "Yes," Vaughn exclaimed inwardly, pumping a mental fist. "No, not yet," he admitted, "but I'll find them now." "Okay," she nodded. "You only need to find one more person. My roommate can complete the team. We stay in room 429. You can meet us there when you find a fourth person. Vaughn gave her a quick two-finger salute. No problem, I'm Vaughn Varley, by the way. I'm Aura. Aura Nova. Wow, Vaughn breathed. So you were the number one. Aura's expression shifted. She looked almost annoyed by the mention of it. She put a finger to her lips. Yeah, but please don't let others know, she whispered. I don't want our new teammate joining just because of my rank. I want someone who actually wants to work. Vaughn smiled wryly. She was the complete opposite of Celine. I won't tell a soul, he promised. You can count on that. Good, Aura said before waving a hand lazily. Bye, Vaughn, I'll be waiting for you. She stepped into the elevator, the doors sliding shut on her. Vaughn stood there for a moment in the empty hallway, a grin spreading across his face that he couldn't suppress. Who needs Julian when I've got the final boss on my team? Hey. Chapter 20. Complete Team. Hey, would you like to join my team? What rank were you? 84. Sorry, I've got a team already. Hey, you seem to be looking for a team? I heard you telling that other guy. 84 is too low. I'm looking for top 50 only. Walk on. That was the hurdle Vaughn was facing as he navigated the rapidly thinning crowd of the grand ballroom. He hadn't expected this task to be this difficult. In his mind, 84 wasn't that bad of a rank. But no one else shared the same thoughts. I even finished in the top half of the competition. And it's like this? Vaughn muttered, rubbing his face with his palm in frustration. It was an annoying social experiment. No one wanted to team up with someone of a lower rank than them, fearing they would be dragged down. Even worse, the contestants of lower ranks were avoiding each other like the plague, desperately trying to latch onto the legs of the higher rankers like parasites hoping for a free ride. It was pathetic, but understandable. This was survival after all. Vaughn checked the time. He had been circling for 30 minutes. Forget it, he sighed, shoving his hands into his pockets. Everyone can't get a team. Eventually the music stops, and whoever is left without a chair has to group up. He returned to the back of the room, found an empty chair, and sat down. He pulled out his phone, deciding to conserve his energy while the desperate bargaining continued around him. He played a few rounds of a mobile game, tuning out the noise, until a hush fell over the room. Vaughn looked up. The ballroom, which had been swarming with 200 people, was now cavernous and empty. Only a small cluster of people remained near the back. Must be the last ones, Vaughn muttered, pocketing his phone. He stood up and walked toward the group. There were exactly 25 people left. They were the rejects, the ones nobody wanted. Name, unknown. Vocals, D. Name, unknown. Vocals, D. Name, unknown. Vocals, D+. Vaughn wasn't surprised of what he saw when he used Inspect. The high rankers had been snatched up immediately, leaving only the vocal equivalent of scrap metal. His eyes landed on a girl sitting near the wall. Name, unknown. Vocals, C-. Vaughn raised an eyebrow. C-, that's actually decent. She was technically on the same vocal level as him, stat-wise, so he was a bit lucky. Vaughn took a step toward her, ready to seal the deal. But then, his peripheral vision caught something. Sitting alone in the far corner was a bearded man, who looked entirely out of place. He sat with his shoulders hunched, staring at the floor. Name, unknown. Vocals, E+. Skill, drum expert. Description: a rhythmic savant capable of maintaining perfect tempo and complex percussive arrangements. E+ vocals was abysmal. It was the lowest score Vaughn had seen in the entire competition after all. But the skill, most people here didn't have specific skills when he used Inspect on them. But this is a singing competition. What good is a drummer? Vaughn thought, debating with himself. Logically, the C girl was the safe bet. But as Vaughn looked back at the man, he looked defeated. Something about that look resonated with Vaughn. It reminded him of his past life, sitting in a dark room, knowing he had nothing to offer the world, the loneliness and weight of being a nobody. Vaughn sighed, scratching the back of his head. Damn it. He turned away from the sea-girl and walked toward the bearded man. I mean, surely he can be helpful with his drum skills, Vaughn rationalized. It only made sense they'll get a rock song for a team performance, so that'll further improve them. He stopped in front of the man. Hey, bud, you joined a team yet? No, I haven't. Great, Vaughn grinned. How'd you like to join mine? We just need one more person so you'll complete us. The man blinked in surprise. He looked around to see if Vaughn was talking to someone else. Me? Yes, you. Actually, look, man. I should tell you, I'm Connor Prince. I'm number 200. Okay? Number 200, Connor repeated, emphasizing it. I am dead last. The worst singer in the building. Do you really want that anchor around your neck? Or are you perhaps a low ranker too? Vaughn shrugged. If you consider 84th low, then yes, I am. So are you joining or not? Connor stood up abruptly. Of course I'm joining. Yes, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. You see, I actually wasn't expecting much when I registered for this competition. I'm a session guitarist from Seattle, lost my gig, bills were piling up, and my ex-wife said I should try something crazy. So I did. And well, I managed to scrape through the auditions, so here I am. In LA, I've never been to LA before. It's really bright here. Right, Vaughn interrupted gently before Connor could explain his entire family tree. Let's save this for later. Well, first meet up with the rest of the team. The walk to the elevator was filled with Connor thanking Vaughn profusely. Room 429 was located on the 4th floor, just down the hall from Vaughn's own room. Vaughn stopped in front of the door and knocked gently. Who is it? A voice chirped from inside. It sounded high-pitched and distinctly youthful. It's Vaughn, he called out. Aura invited me. There was silence for a few seconds, followed by the lock turning. The door swung open. Standing in the doorway was a girl that barely reached Vaughn's chest, with a messy bun of blonde hair and oversized round glasses that magnified her brown eyes. She was wearing a baggy t-shirt that hung off one shoulder and fuzzy socks. She looked up at Vaughn, then at the scruffy Connor, before a massive beaming smile split her face. Oh, you brought a friend. Come in, come in. Aura was sitting on one of the beds, reading a book. She closed it and stood up as they entered. So, we're complete now? Aura asked as her gaze slid over Connor. Yeah, Vaughn said, closing the door behind Connor. We're all here, so we should go receive the song now before the line gets too long. Wait, Aura's roommate interrupted. We haven't introduced ourselves properly yet. We're gonna be teammates, so let's know each other. I'm Sophie Taylor, 21 years old. Vaughn was surprised hearing her age, given her appearance. Vaughn Varley. I'm 18. Connor Prince. I'm 36. I'm from Chicago. Sophie's eyes widened. 36? You're like the team dad. That's so cool. Connor blushed redder than a tomato. You can call me Aura. I'm 18. Great. Sophie clapped her hands. Now that we aren't strangers, let's go get the song. Chapter 21. Drum expert. The group made their way down to the administration desk set up in the lobby. There was a short line, but it moved quickly. When they reached the front, the producer took down their names, registered them as Team 11, and handed Vaughn a sealed manila envelope. Your song assignment, the producer said. Good luck. They didn't open it immediately. They waited until they were back in the room. Vaughn sat on the edge of the bed, the envelope in his hands. The other three gathered around him. All right, Vaughn said. Moment of truth. He ripped the seal and pulled out a single sheet of paper. Song title, Someone to You. Artist, Jack Phillips. Vaughn frowned. Jack Phillips? Never heard of him, Sophie said, tilting her head. Me neither, Aura muttered. I think... Connor scratched his beard. I think I do. He was an indie artist from the mid-2000s. One-hit wonder type? Vaughn pulled out his phone immediately. Let's see what we're dealing with. He typed the song title into the search bar. An article popped up from a music blog dated 2006. Jack Phillips' Someone to You, the Forgotten Folk Anthem. Unlike the overproduced pop of the era, Phillips stripped everything back. No synths, no drum machines, no electric guitars. Just a man and his acoustic guitar. It is a raw folk pop ballad that relies entirely on vocal harmony and emotional delivery. While the album, Wooden Heart, was critically acclaimed by a small niche of folk enthusiasts, it was a commercial failure. Phillips had one minor radio hit a few years later with Whispers in the Rain, but the industry pressure eventually broke him. He famously walked away from his contract in 2010, disappearing into the mountains of Montana where he reportedly still lives, refusing to release new music. Vaughn stopped reading. The history was interesting, but right now, he was more curious about the sound. He opened the Tunify app on his phone and searched for the track and pressed play. A gentle, finger-picked guitar melody filled the silence of the hotel room. Then, a soft, raspy male voice began to sing, "I don't want to die or fade away." To Vaughn, it was beautiful, in a haunting way. It felt emotional and raw. As a song, it was good, but Vaughn knew that for their specific team composition, it was a disaster. He had picked Connor specifically for his percussion skills to round out the group's sound. He had bet everything on getting a pop or rock anthem that would require a strong beat to drive it. Instead, they had gotten an acoustic campfire song that demanded nothing but vocal harmony. Damn it. Vaughn cursed under his breath, pinching the bridge of his nose. The sudden curse drew stares from the rest of the group. "What's the problem?" Aura asked, looking up from her phone. "Nothing," Vaughn muttered, shaking his head. I really thought it would have drums. It would have made Connor more useful." The room went silent. Connor gasped softly and shrank back. The excitement in his eyes vanished, replaced by the familiar look of someone who knew they were a burden. Sophie frowned, looking from Connor to Vaughn. "That's mean, Vaughn." Only when Vaughn saw their reactions did he realize how his words had sounded. "No, wait," he clarified quickly. "That's not what I meant. I'm not saying he's useless. I'm saying it's a waste because Connor is exceptional with the drums." Connor blinked in confusion. I am." "Yes, aren't you?" Connor looked completely bewildered at Vaughn's words. "I never told you that, though. In fact, I haven't even played the drums in my life. I don't think I can play." Vaughn was surprised. "What?" He stared at Connor. The man had no reason to lie. He did say he was a guitarist in his band earlier, so Vaughn wondered what was wrong. He quickly pulled up the system interface again. Name, Connor Prince. Skill, drum expert. The system didn't lie, but apparently neither did Connor. Was it a latent talent, Vaughn wondered? It was a gamble. He didn't know if the skill applied to someone with zero experience. But looking at the interface, Vaughn chose to trust the system over reality. He stood up and gestured to the door. "Follow me. I want to show you something." "Where are we going?" Sophie asked, jumping up. "Just come." Everyone followed him without question, though the atmosphere was still tense. They took the elevator down and were led to the large practice hall. Luckily for them, it was currently empty. Most people were still forming their teams or assigning roles. Vaughn walked straight to one of the drum kits set up in the corner. A decent Yamaha stage custom set. He grabbed the stool and pulled it out. "Sit," Vaughn directed Connor. "Vaughn, I really don't." "Go on," Vaughn insisted, crossing his arms. "Show us what you got, bud." Connor didn't understand why Vaughn was insisting he could play an instrument he'd never touched. And honestly, no one else understood either. But as Connor looked at the gleaming cymbals and the tight snare head, he felt something. A strange pull. An itch in his fingers. He sat down on the stool and made himself comfortable. Everyone had their eyes fixed on him as he hesitantly picked up the drumsticks. He held them awkwardly at first, then adjusted his grip instinctively until they rested perfectly in his palms. What should I try playing?" Vaughn leaned against the wall. "Anything you wish." Connor exhaled a breath. He looked at the snare drum. He tapped it. Tat. Then the kick drum. Thump. It felt right. He hit the hi-hat. Tish. Then, something clicked in his brain, and his hands began to move. It started with a simple rock beat, steady and strong, but within seconds, the rhythm took over. Connor wasn't just hitting things, he was playing. He transitioned from a simple 4/4 beat into a complex, rolling fill across the toms. His left hand danced on the snare while his right hand worked the ride cymbal with a jazz-like finesse. He drummed harder and faster with time. He closed his eyes, a grin spreading across his face as the sound washed over him. He incorporated the crash cymbals, creating a thunderous crescendo that echoed off the walls of the empty hall. Looking at him and the confidence he exuded, it seemed like someone else had taken his place. "He's so good," Sophie whispered to Vaughn. "I know, right?" Vaughn replied with inward relief that the system didn't get it wrong. Connor finished with a final, decisive slam on the snare and crash cymbal. The sound rang out into silence. Connor sat there, looking down at the sticks in his hands like they were magic wands. He felt satisfied, immensely, incredibly happy. "Did I do well?" "Of course you did." Vaughn was the first to reply, stepping forward with a grin. "You're really good, Connor. Better than good." "That was amazing." Sophie cheered, clapping her hands. Even Aura was very impressed. Connor laughed breathlessly, wiping his forehead. But then, his expression shifted to one of confusion. "But I'm quite curious, Vaughn. What led you to think I could play in the first place? We didn't know each other until today." Chapter 22. Practice. The question left Vaughn in a tight corner, because he couldn't exactly say, "I have a magical video game interface floating over my eyes that lists your hidden talents," so he had no choice than to lie. He shrugged nonchalantly, shoving his hands into his pockets. "I don't know. My gut told me, I guess. You have a rhythmic way of breathing." Sophie inched her head closer to him, clearly not buying it. They all looked skeptical. But it wasn't like they could hook him up to a polygraph test right there in the practice room. "Okay," Sophie said slowly, deciding to let it slide. She turned back to the group, clapping her hands once to reset the mood. "But now we've found out Connor can play drums. How does it help? I mean, the song is still acoustic. It's a lullaby. Drums might just drown it out." Sophie's point was valid. Normally, slamming a rock beat over a folk ballad would sound like a car crash. Vaughn tapped his chin. "They didn't say we couldn't improve the song." He had already used Inspect on the sheet music earlier. The system had given it a completion rate, 52%. That meant the original arrangement was only half of what it could be. It was leaving points on the table. And Vaughn knew exactly how to grab them. "We remix it," Vaughn said, a grin spreading across his face. He turned to Connor. "I'm leaving you with the responsibility of translating those guitar strums into a drum beat. You see where the guitar picks up in the chorus? That's where I want a kick drum heartbeat. Make it drive. Make it something people want to run to." Vaughn said it so casually, as if he were asking Connor to pass the salt. Connor looked pale. "You think I can do that? I just learned I could play 5 minutes ago." "I know you can," Vaughn said with absolute confidence. "Trust your hands, not your head." By now, other teams were starting to filter into the large music hall. The quiet sanctuary was quickly becoming a mix of warming-up vocalists and tuning instruments. "It's getting crowded," Vaughn noted. "Let's break for now. Tonight I want us all to memorize the lyrics and the structure. Connor, work on that beat. Tomorrow we put it all together." "Where do we meet?" Connor asked, standing up. "Here?" Sophie suggested. Aura shook her head. "No, it's too noisy. We won't be able to hear ourselves, let alone harmonize. They can come over to our room. It's big enough." "Works for me," Vaughn agreed, and they all settled on meeting at noon. When Vaughn returned to his room, he realized Julian was still not back yet. It only made sense that he was still practicing. He didn't dwell on it, instead spending the rest of the evening with his guitar, playing through the original chords of Someone to You. He stripped the song down, figuring out where he could layer harmonies and where he could let Aura's voice shine. He fell asleep with the melody looping in his head. When he woke up the next morning, the other bed was still empty, and the sheets still looked pristine. Vaughn frowned. Did he come home late and leave early, or was he never back at all? It was odd, but Vaughn pushed the worry aside. The competition was fierce. Maybe Julian had decided to crash with his new team. He couldn't care less. Vaughn quickly completed his daily quests in the gym and got ready. At 12 p.m. sharp, Vaughn knocked on the door of room 429. "Coming," Sophie's voice chirped. The door swung open, revealing a chaotic scene. Sophie was sitting on the floor surrounded by snack wrappers, while Aura sat perfectly poised on her bed, reviewing notes on an iPad. Connor was sitting on a chair in the corner, tapping his knees rhythmically. "You're last," Sophie teased, waving him in. "It's only a minute past 12, Vaughn remarked as he closed the door behind him. They did a quick checkup. Aura and Sophie had the lyrics memorized perfectly. Aura had even marked up breathing points on her sheet music. As for Connor, I haven't memorized all the words yet. I struggle with memorizing stuff quickly. Words just kinda float away." "That's fine," Vaughn assured him. "Your primary instrument is the drums. As long as you know the cues, we're good." Sophie crossed her legs, looking up at Vaughn with wide, expectant eyes. "Okay, Captain. What's the agenda for today?" Everyone focused their attention on him. Vaughn realized with a start that they were actually waiting for his command. He had somehow become the leader, and he didn't mind it. "All right," Vaughn said, stepping into the center of the room. "As we all know, we can't all sing the melody at once. That's boring. So we're going to split it. I believe if we layer this right, we can create a performance for the ages." He turned to the drummer. "Connor, were you able to create the beat?" "I think so," Connor nodded. "I didn't have a drum kit, obviously, so I downloaded a drum pad app on my phone and recorded my idea. It's rough, but..." He pulled out his phone and pressed play. A beat blasted through the tiny speaker. It wasn't the slow, plodding rhythm of the original. It was driving. It had a syncopated kick pattern that gave the song a galloping, urgent feel. Aura's eyebrows shot up. "That actually sounds better than the original." "Yep." Vaughn grinned, clapping Connor on the shoulder. "All credit to Connor's amazing work. That beat is our engine. Now, how do we build the car around it?" Over the course of the next 7 hours, room 429 became a laboratory of sound. Vaughn took the lead on arrangement. He assigned the lower harmonies to himself to ground the sound. He gave the soaring, high notes to Aura, knowing her vocal range could handle the emotional peaks. Sophie took the mid-range harmonies, acting as the glue between Vaughn and Aura. "Let's add more," Vaughn suggested at some point. "Just vocals and drums feels empty. I'll play acoustic guitar to keep the rhythm tight." "I can play piano," Aura chimed in, raising a hand. "I saw a grand piano in the music room. If we can use it, I can add the melody line during the verses." "Perfect," Vaughn said. "Guitar, piano, drums, and 3-part harmony. We're a full band." They practiced relentlessly. Sometimes they made mistakes, but they corrected each other and kept striving for perfection. Even Connor, who had struggled with the lyrics, started to hum along perfectly in time, his confidence growing with every loop. By the time the sun began to set, painting the LA skyline in hues of orange and purple outside the window, they were exhausted but exhilarated. "Let's stop here," Vaughn breathed, wiping sweat from his forehead. "My voice is toasted." "Mine too," Sophie groaned, flopping backward onto the bed. "But we sound good." "We do," Aura agreed. She looked thoughtful for a moment. "But I feel like it would be better if we could have a live rehearsal. Like actually play it with the instruments. Right now, we're just imagining the piano and drums. We need to know how the levels balance before we get on stage." Vaughn got her point. "I agree, but the music room is kinda packed all day. If we go down there now, we'll be fighting for space." "How about we use the room when they're done?" she suggested. "They'll pretty much stay there until the staff kicks them by midnight, so I don't know if that can work," Vaughn countered. "Exactly," Aura said. "But by 2 a.m. the staff would have left and the contestants will be asleep. The room will be empty. You want to sneak in at 2 a.m.? It's the only way to get a full run-through with the grand piano and the drum kit," Aura reasoned. "Unless you want to wing it on stage?" Her logic was flawless, but Vaughn groaned internally. Waking up at 2 a.m. sounded like torture. He was already tired. "It's a brilliant idea," he had to admit with a sigh. "Okay, let's do it." Everyone expressed their agreement before Sophie raised her hands. "Great. Now that the plan is set, who's hungry? Let's go grab dinner together. Chapter 23. Midnight Session. Sometimes all I think about is you. Late nights in the middle of June. Heat waves been freaking me out. The sound of plastic humans blasting from Vaughn's phone on the nightstand was usually a vibe, but 8 now it felt like a war crime. It took a few more rings for him to pick up the phone and squint against the annoying white light. Oh crap, Vaughn muttered after seeing the caller. Incoming call. Aura. Reality immediately flooded back. The plan. The secret rehearsal. The fact that he was supposed to be downstairs 28 minutes ago. Hello? He picked up. You're late. A calm voice came through the speaker. We're outside your door. If you don't open up in 10 seconds, Sophie is threatening to kick it down. Vaughn scrambled out of bed, tripping over his shoes in the dark. I'm up. I'm up. Give me a minute. He hung up, splashed freezing water on his face, grabbed his guitar case, and left the room. Aura was leaning against the doorframe with her arms crossed, looking effortlessly awake in a stylish black tracksuit. Sophie also looked energetic as she played with her hair, but Connor looked like a zombie. He had even taken to sitting on the floor already. I forgot to set the alarm, Vaughn admitted, with an apologetic smile. Zoe, forgiven, Aura replied. But we're burning daylight, or moonlight. Let's go. The grand music room was located in the basement level, far away from the guest suites. The double doors were massive and intimidatingly shut. Vaughn tried the handle, but it didn't budge until he located the bolt above and slid it down. They slipped inside. Sophie hit the master switch, and the room flooded with light. It was pristine. The cleaners had clearly just finished, leaving the instruments arranged in perfect rows. It felt like breaking into a museum. Connor hesitated near the door. He looked at the Yamaha drum kit sitting silently in the corner. Are we really meant to be doing this? What if security comes? Vaughn closed the door softly and smirked. I've told you already, Connor. Security is asleep, and the producers don't give a fuck. If we get caught, we say we're dedicated. If we don't, we get a killer rehearsal. Win-win. His answer didn't seem to fully convince the drummer, but the pull of the instrument was stronger than his fear. Connor walked over, sat on the stool, and began testing the sticks. Okay, Vaughn said, moving to the center. The plan now is simple. We run the set, we fix the levels, we figure out how to not crash into each other musically. Everyone knows their roles. Aura didn't answer. She just walked to the glossy black Steinway grand piano and sat down, her fingers hovering over the keys. Sophie picked her up a tambourine. It was clear to everyone that despite Vaughn being the de facto leader, the arrangement pivoted around Aura. He had assigned her the better solo verses and the soaring high notes of the hook. No one minded. When you had a Ferrari engine, you didn't put it in a minivan, you let it run. Okay, Vaughn counted off, nodding to Connor. 1, 2, 3, go. Connor hit the snare, and the room exploded with sound. They practiced for 3 hours straight, and thank goodness they did. The first run-through was a mess. The piano drowned out the guitar. Sophie couldn't keep up with Corner's rhythm, and other minor issues arose. If they had gone on stage like that, it would have been a disaster. But in the safety of the empty room, they fixed it. They adjusted the dynamics. Vaughn made Sophie understand when to shake the tambourine and when to mute it. Aura figured out how to project over the drums better. By 5 a.m., they were exhausted, but yet perfect. That was when the door creaked open. A janitor poked his head in, broom in hand. He blinked at the 4 of them sweating over instruments in the pre-dawn light. Vaughn tried to talk his way out of it. The janitor just shrugged, muttered something about crazy kids, and closed the door again. But the secret was out. As they packed up to leave, early bird contestants who had woken up for yoga or prayer started to peek in. Their eyes widened when they saw them leaving the room, clearly having been there all night. Whispers started immediately. Did they sleep in there? Look at them. They look wrecked. Are they that desperate? Desperate? They're selfish for not letting others know we could use it. The quad ignored the stares and went on for their preparations. They had already been informed their turn was by 11 a.m., so Vaughn began by hitting the gym for his daily quest. He was already known as a workout maniac now, but he didn't mind considering the opposite reputation he carried in his past life. He quickly got ready and had breakfast before waiting for their turn. 10:55 a.m., February 27th, Wednesday. Backstage was a pressure cooker. Vaughn, Connor, Sophie, and Aura stood in a tight circle, waiting for their call. A production assistant was buzzing around them, checking mic packs and confirming the instrument list. Through the thin walls, they could hear the judges ripping into the current team on stage. That was sloppy. Did you even rehearse together? I'm not really impressed. Moments later, the double doors swung open and Team 10 walked out. Two of the guys were crying. The girl leading them looked even worse. Vaughn watched them pass. He felt a pang of sympathy. But on the other hand, their performance was a mess anyway. Compared to theirs, it was like day and night. Group 11. The stage manager called out after some time, and they walked out. Hello, Arya greeted them. She looked fresher today, though her eyes were sharp. So many familiar faces, the blue-haired girl, and the Miami rebel. Rex Sterling leaned forward. So what do you have for us, Group 11? Vaughn stepped up to the mic. They had already agreed he'd do the talking. Good morning, judges. I'm Vaughn, and we have Aura, Sophie, and Connor. We were assigned someone to you by Jack Phillips. Jax raised an eyebrow. His eyes drifting to the stage set up. Interesting. I know that song. I didn't know it included a drum kit. Is that intentional? Yeah, Vaughn said, gripping the mic stand. We decided that the original was a little too quiet for us. We decided to make ours special, and better, of course. His confidence made Arya and Jax chuckle. It was a bold claim to improve on a song in front of industry veterans. Better, huh? Arya smiled, leaning back in her chair. Well, we'll be the judge of that. She gestured to the stage. Give us what you got, Group 11. Chapter 24, Performance. Vaughn turned back at Aura, then Sophie, and finally locked eyes with Connor. They had all taken their places. After tapping his foot as a signal, they all released the beat. It wasn't the slow, acoustic plucking of the original. Connor slammed into a driving, syncopated kick drum rhythm that hit the judges in the chest like a heartbeat. The Steinway piano layered over it instantly, bright and urgent, while Vaughn's acoustic guitar provided the percussive strumming that glued it all together. Vaughn stepped up to the mic. He activated emote and resonance, projecting a deep, desperate longing into his gaze as he looked directly at them. I don't want to die or fade away. I don't want to be that one, I just want to be the one. His voice was gritty and grounded as he sang with emotion. Die or disappear without a trace. I just want to be someone, well, doesn't everyone? Sophie stepped up to her mic, shaking the tambourine in perfect time. Her voice was lighter, blending with Vaughn's lower register. And when you see the stars colliding, I want to be the one you're finding. 'Cause you believe that I can lead the way. Their harmony on the last line made the judges captivated, but they were left silent when the beat dropped out for a split second, leaving only Aura to deliver the pre-chorus. I just want to be somebody to someone. Oh, I want to be somebody to someone. Oh, I never had nobody or place to go. I want to be somebody to someone. As she hit the final word, Connor brought the full kit back in with a thunderous fill. Vaughn and Sophie joined Aura, their three voices merging into a powerful wall of sound. And if the sun starts setting, the sky goes cold. Or if the time is wasting and I get old. I really need a moment to call my own. I want to be somebody to someone. Someone to you. Someone to you. Someone to you. Someone to you. The energy in the room was electric as the production crew used colored lights to focus on them and film a cinematic clip. After the chorus, the instrumentation pulled back slightly. It was Sophie's turn to shine. I don't even need to rule the world. I'll make the moon shine just for you, girl. I'll make the starlight circle the world. Vaughn took over immediately. This part was in his comfort zone, but it was crucial to build the tension for the pre-chorus. He strummed harder, driving the rhythm forward. And if you feel the night is calling, I want to be the place you're falling. 'Cause you believe that I can lead the way. The beat dropped again. Aura's voice returned, soft but loaded with emotion, melting the souls of everyone listening. I just want to be somebody to someone. Oh, I want to be somebody to someone. Oh, I never had nobody or place to go. I want to be somebody to someone. And if the sun starts setting, the sky goes cold. Or if the time is wasting and I get old, I really need a moment to call my own. I want to be somebody to someone, someone to you, someone to you, someone to you, someone to you. The judges had their mouths open in awe. This wasn't a group of strangers thrown together for a reality show. This felt like a seasoned band at a stadium concert. The lights flashed in sync with Connor's crash cymbals, creating a cinematic spectacle. As if the song couldn't get any better, the bridge arrived. The drums and guitar faded completely. It was just Aura and the piano. The rain will fall. The wind will blow. The summer sun will come and go. I just want to be somebody to you. She hit a high note on you that was so pure, so perfectly controlled, it sent shivers down everyone's spine. But she wasn't done. She ramped up the power, her voice growing stronger. I just want to be somebody to someone. Oh, I want to be somebody to someone, oh. I never had nobody or place to go. I want to be somebody to someone. They all joined in for the grand finale. This time, even Connor leaned into his headset mic, adding a deep, resonant bass vocal that grounded the harmonies perfectly. And if the sun starts setting, the sky goes cold. Or if the time is wasting and I get old, I really need a moment to call my own. I want to be somebody to someone, someone to you, someone to you, someone to you, someone to you, someone to you. Connor hit the final crash cymbal, letting it ring out. Aura held the final piano chord. Vaughn was panting as the sound decayed. He had stretched his voice to its absolute peak to keep up with Aura without cracking. His fingers burned from the guitar strings. It was truly energy draining. But the silence didn't last long. Clap, clap, clap. It started slow, but it built rapidly. Arya, Jax, and Rex Sterling, they were all clapping, and it wasn't the polite, obligatory applause they gave the other teams. They were standing up. Arya used a napkin to wipe her eyes, which were red and watery. She shook her head in disbelief. She breathed into her mic. That was the best thing I've heard from a live band in years. Vaughn pumped a fist internally. Hearing a pop icon like Arya say that was insane. Jax smiled wryly, leaning over. Arya, you've clearly never been to a Crimson Haze show. We rock harder than that. He chuckled, then grew serious. But jokes aside, I have to give it to you guys. This was exquisite. I never expected to get something this professional out of a contest week. Man, you guys are amazing. The praise made the team beam with pride. Sophie looked like she might float away. But Rex Sterling was yet to speak. He stood there, hands in his pockets, staring at them. The room went quiet, waiting for the CEO's verdict. You know, Rex began, his voice calm. When I first met you, Vaughn, I never thought you'd make it this far. I thought you were just loud. But now, here you are, leaving me with my mouth wide open. Vaughn chuckled at the admission. Rex continued, addressing the whole group. Your performance was great, almost perfect. The arrangement, the remix, the execution. But there's only one problem. The smile vanished from Sophie's face. All eyes were focused on him now to hear his rebuke. Even the camera crew zoomed in on the CEO's face to capture the drama. Rex sighed dramatically. It's actually a pity. I'm saddened that you're not a real band. Fuck, you four will give us good music. His final words immediately placated the tension that was almost rising. Arya beamed, picking up her stylus. You've truly impressed us, but now let's find out how much. All the judges wrote down on their interface to score them. Chapter 25. Perfect score. Jax, 10. Rex, 10. Arya, 10. Vaughn couldn't restrain his grin after seeing the numbers flash on the massive screen. A perfect 30. It was expected given the standing ovation and the effusive praise they had just received. But that didn't make it any less special. "We did it!" Sophie squealed, pumping her fists into the air with joy. "Of course you did, sweetie," Arya replied with a radiant smile. "It's a pity we're limited to just 10. I would have definitely scored you above that if the system allowed it. The blend, the energy, the bravery to remix a classic. It was simply masterful. I'm already looking forward to seeing what you four bring if you make it to the Star Mansion. You've set the bar incredibly high in this round." Vaughn and his team bowed one last time and exited the stage. While the next team was being set up, the judges took a short recess. The production assistants rushed in to refill water glasses and provide some needs, but the trio at the desk was too busy buzzing with excitement. Rex leaned back and removed his glasses to clean them. That is exactly what this show needed. A viral moment. "Absolutely," Arya agreed, checking her pad. "The raw footage is gold. You can't fake that chemistry between them. It's surely gonna implode when we air this episode." "It will raise the stakes as well," Jax added. "Up until now, we never expected to get something of this level. But they've shown us we should set our expectations higher. We're gonna become more strict with the judging now." "Good," Rex said, replacing his glasses. His eyes glinted. "It was about time we did this. Let's see who crumbles." The rest of the day passed by in a haze of nerves and performances. By 7 p.m., all 200 remaining contestants were gathered in the main hall once again. The air was stifling. Everyone knew what was coming. This was the unveiling of the updated leaderboard after the group round. Considering this was the penultimate round of Hollywood Week, the margins for error had vanished. One bad score now would surely make things difficult. "Everyone breathe," Michael said from the front of the room, sensing the collective panic. "Like I said before, there's no need to panic. It's never over until it's over." No one took his comforting words seriously. Comfort won't win them the contract. They just wanted him to turn on the damn screen. Michael sensed the mood and nodded. "All right, let's see where you stand." The massive screen behind him flickered to life. Names and numbers fell down like a digital waterfall before locking into place. 1. Oran Nova, 60 PTS. 2. Alex Hall, 57 PTS. 3. Gregory Williams, 57 PTS. 4. Celine Smith, 56 PTS. 5. Julian West, 56 PTAs. 9. Sophie Taylor, 52 PTS. 10. Vaughn Varley, 52 PTAs. 22. Connor Prince, 46 PTS. Spurk Print Squeer, 200 James Cruz, 33 PTS. A heavy silence fell over the room. For many, there was relief. It was very clear that majority had failed, so they were grateful to find themselves not falling lower than their former spots. But for others, the reality was a cold bucket of water. The gap between the top rankers and the bottom was becoming a chasm. To jump into the top 24 now would require a miracle. But one name dominated every whisper in the room: Oran Nova. No one could believe someone would get a perfect 30 in the first round, and another perfect 30 in the group round. That realization enough was terrifying. Vaughn, however, was focused on something else. He scanned the names. Julian and Celine were tied at 56 points. That meant their supergroup had only scored a 26-30. A 26 is great, Vaughn mused, rubbing his chin. But considering they have two of the supposed favorites in one team, it's underwhelming. Were the judges really that harsh today? Or were they just not good enough? Still, he couldn't complain. Rank 10. He had climbed from the depths of rank 84 into the elite tier. He did the mental math quickly. To guarantee a spot, he needed at most a 25 in the final round. That meant his chances were still in his hands. "You've all seen your scores." Michael's voice cut through the murmurs. "That should let you know exactly how much effort you need to put in for the final push. As you can see, you are surrounded by monsters. If you want a key to the mansion, you have to take it from them." Most contestants offered wry, nervous smiles at the monster's comment. It felt all too true. "All right," Michael continued, walking over to the glass bowl on the pedestal. Let's see what we got for the last one. He reached in, his hand swirling through the plastic spheres. Michael pulled out a blue ball, cracked it open, and unfolded the paper inside. He read it, his eyebrows raising slightly. The song is "To Fade Away" by the Silent Ones. A ripple of recognition went through the crowd. It was a famous, heartbreaking ballad. For this round, Michael explained, you are all to sing the same song. The goal of this round is simple: to move the judges, to replicate the raw emotion the original duo sang this song with and deliver it to perfection. But the judges can't hear all 200 of you in one day. So, your performances will be spread across 3 days. The lower rankers will go first tomorrow. The top 50 will perform on day 3. He smiled professionally and dropped back the ball. There you have it, your last hurdle to the Star Mansion. Good luck.